Chapter 1545. The core of the divine kingdom might be over there. Zhao Feng's gaze turned toward the forbidden ground in the distance. He had been sure of this the last time he was captured. At this time, Zhao Feng had changed into a suit of silver armor and was now a guard of the heaven-defying faction. Now that all the members of the Heaven's Legacy race had returned, the chances of him being discovered had greatly increased. Thus, Zhao Feng decided to disguise himself. As long as it wasn't a god king looking carefully, they would find it very difficult to notice anything amiss. As for the members of the heaven-defying faction, they had never imagined that there would be an intruder, so they were less guarded. Coupled with the fact that this was a time of chaos, almost no god king would pay close attention to a single guard like Zhao Feng. But approaching the core was a different story. There was no one around the forbidden ground. If Zhao Feng approached, he would be far too conspicuous and attract attention. Thus, Zhao Feng remained near the forbidden ground to think of a solution. At this moment, hisses. Within the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom, an enormous array of white crystals had been constructed. This array glimmered with brilliant light as vast amounts of energy began to circulate. Many white rays of light extended from the array, connecting it to the Divine Kingdom. Within and around the array, there were many experts controlling key positions of the array. In order to stop the attacks of the three gods, the defensive capabilities of the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom were far from enough. An energy transmission array was needed, using the members of the heaven-defying faction as a source of energy. In the distance, three golden-armored men were making their way toward the forbidden ground. "You come here." One of the pale-faced men pointed at a silver-armored guard in the distance and casually called out, "Yes." The silver-armored guard was shocked and immediately stepped forward. The standard for a golden-armored guard was second heaven, the highest of the guards. He only obeyed the upper echelon of the heaven-defying faction, so he had to obey the golden-armored guard's orders. "Guard the forbidden ground with us," one of the golden-armored guards immediately said. Hearing those words, the silver-armored guard's expression immediately changed. The people nearby also trembled slightly and immediately left. Everyone knew that the forbidden ground was the core of the Divine Kingdom, and now that the Divine Kingdom's defensive array was activated, the core was certain to erupt with an immense energy that ordinary godlords would not be able to endure. At this crucial moment, all of you are afraid of death. You get over here. The golden-armored, white-faced man had a look of disdain on his face. He then looked at a slow silver-armored guard and immediately shouted, "Yes." This slow-moving guard was Zhao Feng. He pretended to be unwilling and slowly flew over. Then, the three golden-armored guards pulled some more people over and quickly approached the forbidden area. At this moment, the forbidden area was already fluctuating with a frightening power. Even with the isolation of the formation, the powerful aura could still be felt from the outside. To prevent any accidents of the core will of the Divine Kingdom, the Pale of God of Clans Divine, the God, the Kingdom. The pale-faced guard said righteously. Usually, the forbidden area was empty because there were many traps here. However, this was a critical period. If something happened to the core area, it had to be repaired immediately, so they needed to send people to stand guard. In reality, it would definitely be safer to send a third heaven or even a god king. However, they were short on manpower at the moment, so they could only send a few low-level godmasters. Kingdom. Dragon. Explosions rang out from the core of the forbidden ground as the terrifying energy continued to climb. Outside the array, the silver-armored guards circulated their divine power to form barriers around them. Suddenly, an explosion came from within, followed by a terrifying ripple of divine power. The layers of arrays began to rumble and groan. The distant array in the sky exploded with divine power that connected and fused with the Divine Kingdom. With this, the heaven-defying faction's strongest Divine Kingdom array was complete. Not even a god would be able to break the heaven-defying faction's Divine Kingdom in a short amount of time. In the core of the forbidden ground, the array was brimming with terrifying energy. Although it did not leak out, it still made the guards outside tremble in fear. Once the defensive array is broken, this terrifying energy will be enough to kill a first heaven godlord. Even a second heaven will be forced to retreat. Zhao Feng's lips curled into a smile as he examined the core of the forbidden ground. Driving his will, Zhang Xian executed the realization ability. This was thought power. As long as it wasn't too difficult, he could use it even without using his dream origin energy. Zhao Feng's left eye glanced at the array behind him. Suddenly, an incomparably tiny hole appeared on the barrier. Kaboom! Immediately, a terrifying surge of divine power surged out from within. Moreover, spiderweb cracks appeared around this hole and began to spread. None of the people present had expected for something like this to happen so soon. Boom! Bang! A dark gray storm surged forward. The divine power barrier of the silver-armored guard closest to the hole shattered, and his body was instantly turned to ash by the dreadful energy. At this moment, Zhao Feng used this chance to enter the array. Boom! Bang! The other silver-armored guards were sent flying. Not good. There's a hole in the array. Several of the golden-armored guards retreated in alarm and unleashed vast amounts of divine power to resist the impact. At the same time, the activity here alarmed the other people in the divine kingdom. In the underground core, what's going on? The Right Protector immediately called out. The Forbidden Grounds array has been damaged. An operator immediately reported. Only members of the Heaven's Legacy race could repair the array, but the majority of Heaven's Legacy race members had rather low cultivations. However, the Right Protector had managed to find someone suitable for this task. This person was none other than Yu Luping. He quickly arrived at the Divine Kingdom's core. Elder Yu. The nearby guards respectfully bowed. Did any of you notice anyone suspicious just now? Yu Liuping's gaze was profound as he questioned them one by one. This was the answer he received. There were 8 people guarding the Forbidden Ground. 2 of them were too close to the hole in the array and were killed in the line of duty. The white-faced man reported. Yu Luping nodded, not thinking too much about it. The moment a hole appeared in the array, it would erupt with the most energy. Caught off guard, a first heaven god lord truly would be powerless to resist. He inspected the interior of the array and found nothing strange, so he began to repair the array. The Forbidden Ground in the core had 3 layers of arrays. The outermost layer was the isolation defense barrier, and the inner 2 layers were the weakening barrier. The power that passed through these 2 layers would be weakened to a certain extent. Just now, Zhao Feng had entered the second layer of the array and used his realization ability to repair it. The second floor was brimming with such terrifying energy that even a second heaven god lord would be instantly annihilated. As a peak second heaven, Zhao Feng naturally had nothing to fear and entered the depths of the second layer. At this moment, the third layer of the array was brimming with energy that not even a third heaven would be able to last a single second. Not even a god managed to break in. This divine kingdom's core is definitely unusual. Zhao Feng was considering whether he should enter the third layer or not. At this moment, a powerful ripple of energy approached Zhao Feng. Kitor, an indistinct soul voice came from within. Startled, Zhao Feng focused his eyes and saw an ethereal robe floating within the storm of divine power. This robe was surrounded by layers of spatial barriers that prevented it from being affected. This is? Zhao Feng was taken aback. It was actually this robe that had spoken just now. He activated his left eye to get a clearer view of the array. This robe was as white as jade, and its mysterious silver inscriptions glimmered with a dazzling light. Moreover, there was a 4th array in the center. Kid, you're quite bold to dare infiltrate this place? The robe spoke once more. Ancestral artifact? Zhao Feng probed. How could an ordinary divine artifact be able to remain safe in there? The robe was at a loss for words. In its complete form, it had been an ancestral artifact, but now, it was no longer an ancestral artifact, but a pseudo-ancestral artifact forged from many fragments. But for it to say such a thing, it would only be belittling itself. Seeing that the robe did not admit to it, Zhao Feng guessed that it was a pseudo-ancestral artifact. After all, he had seen the pseudo-ancestral artifact blazing hell before. Kid, you're not a member of the Heaven's Legacy race, but you dare to come here? You truly don't know the meaning of death. The robe exuded a chilling aura, clearly intending to denounce Zhao Feng. Do you want to consider leaving this place with me? Zhao Feng faintly smiled as he suddenly spoke. His goal this time was to destroy the Divine Kingdom's crucial structure, perhaps even its core. And at this moment, he had discovered a pseudo-ancestral artifact in the core. It appeared that this pseudo-ancestral artifact was currently exuding a powerful energy that was of great use to the Divine Kingdom's defenses. If he could abduct it and sell it, wouldn't he have achieved his goal? Moreover, Zhao Feng was rather confident. The innermost fourth array contained many different types of ancestral artifact fragments. They were probably supporting the operation of the core array and providing it with different kinds of energy. However, there was a spatial energy outside this array that blocked off vision and perception. It was clearly the robe's doing. Otherwise, Zhao Feng would not have been mistaken at the start to believe that there were only 3 arrays. This meant that the robe still had hope for the intruder, and it also wanted to leave. Kid, with just you? The robe angrily bellowed. Outside the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom, the Heaven Lord was fleeing with the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom. But the pursuers had the space-time god Eye, which boosted the speed of the other 2 gods as they pursued the Heaven Lord. Lightning crisscrossed, space-time was cut apart, and thorns crisscrossed. The 3 gods attacked at the same time. Boom, bang, crash. The Heaven Lord consumed a great deal of his Eye bloodline energy, so he used both his Divine Kingdom and his own energy to resist. What a tough Divine Kingdom! The space-time god curled her lips. Don't be careless. They're behind us. The life god warned. 10 million li behind them, 3 silhouettes were flying at high speed. One of them had a stooped body and was dressed in tattered black clothes. The other was an elder dressed in a luxurious golden robe. His eyes were even more dazzling than the sun. The last was a beautiful woman in a dark purple dress, her body exuding an oppressive aura. Chapter 1546. In the core of the Divine Kingdom, Zhao Feng and the crystalline robe were separated only by a single domain. Kid, just you? The robe angrily harumphed. Firstly, it was rather dissatisfied with Zhao Feng's tone. The first question had left it speechless, and the second was that it, a pseudo-ancestral artifact, had to follow Zhao Feng. Secondly, it did not believe that Zhao Feng had a way to leave this place. You also want to leave this place, right? If you miss this chance, you'll have to stay here forever. Zhao Feng chuckled, seemingly unconcerned. There was a 4th array in the innermost layer. Many different ancestral artifact fragments had formed a complex Heaven's Legacy array. But when the crystalline robe noticed Zhao Feng's arrival, it had cut off the senses of these ancestral artifact fragments, so Zhao Feng's first inspection had led him to believe that there were only 3 arrays. The crystalline robe had done this because it had a sliver of hope for the intruder. It wanted to leave and didn't want Zhao Feng's identity to be immediately exposed. Kid, you're just a peak second heaven. I don't know how you managed to sneak in, but leaving is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The crystalline robe solemnly said. Although it wanted to escape the control of the Heaven's Legacy race, it would not act blindly. If it chose to leave with Zhao Feng but failed and was captured by the Heaven's Legacy race, the consequences would be even worse. Moreover, even if it successfully left, a faction as powerful as the heaven-defying faction would find it very difficult to deal with a mere second heaven like Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng fell silent for a few moments. Until the crystalline robe followed him, he could not reveal the secret of thought teleportation. Who knew if this pseudo-ancestral artifact would report him to the heaven-defying faction once it learned of his identity? The heaven-defying faction is currently at war with 3 god-eye deities, and the heaven-defying faction is extremely busy. Leaving isn't difficult, and I'm a member of the god-eye camp. Zhao Feng calmly said. 3 god-eyes. The crystalline robe was rather surprised. It had also sensed the war, but it hadn't expected the other side to be 3 god-eyes. However, it had some understanding of the heaven-defying faction strength, so it was only a little surprised. In addition, it had assumed from the start that Zhao Feng was a member of the heaven-defying faction who had taken advantage of the chaos of battle to sneak in and steal the treasures. He didn't expect Zhao Feng to be an outsider. For a peak second heaven to be able to infiltrate the Heaven's legacy race divine kingdom and reach the core forbidden zone was truly not simple. Then I'll tell you one more thing. As long as I leave this formation, the heaven-defying faction will sense it. Do you think it's possible to take me away now? The voice of the crystalline robe was deep. This was the most crucial point. Otherwise, with its own strength, it could easily break through the 3 layers of the formation. Yes. Zhao Feng's expression was calm, but he was extremely serious. This answer stunned the crystal jade robe for a moment. Of course, it was still doubtful. Think about it carefully. I don't have much time. I reckon that they will notice me very soon. After Zhao Feng calmly said this, he directly entered the Dream Divine Kingdom. In the core of the Dream Divine Kingdom, 1 day of cultivation was equivalent to 400 days in the outside world. Zhao Feng used this time to stabilize his cultivation so that he could break into the 3rd heaven. On the central island, in the underground base, the Right Protector was observing the situation outside through the massive screen in front of him. The 3 God Eyes are in hot pursuit. In this situation, even if the Heaven Lord takes out his trump cards, it won't be of much use. The Right Protector's white brows were tightly furrowed. At this moment, a message came, reporting to the Protector, the herb-growing area has been stolen, including the Level 2 secret room. This news caused the Right Protector's eyes to widen in shock. Someone had managed to steal the precious resources the heaven-defying faction had painstakingly cultivated without them noticing. The core area. The Right Protector suddenly thought of something. The defensive barrier around the core area had suddenly shattered. Although this matter was sudden, it wasn't very strange. But when combined with the theft of the herb-growing area, things were different. A layer of frost gradually appeared on his face, and his body stiffened on the spot. I'm leaving for a moment. The Right Protector immediately gave the order and his figure disappeared. Just who was it? The Right Protector began to hurry toward the forbidden ground. Right Protector? Many guards immediately bowed to greet him. No one had expected the Right Protector to personally come here. Was he here to reprimand them for their mistake just now? Everyone was fearful and didn't know what would happen next. But the Protector said nothing. Instead, he began to form a spell, apparently preparing to open the array. In the core of the forbidden ground, within the 2nd layer of the array, a spatial ripple startled Zhao Feng out of his divine kingdom. Kid, I agree. A hurried voice came from within the crystalline robe. Zhao Feng immediately rushed out. A moment later, he understood why the pseudo-ancestral artifact was in such a rush. Okay, since you plan to come with me, we'll first destroy the Divine Kingdom's core. Zhao Feng immediately ordered. The 3 God Eyes were currently attacking the Divine Kingdom. Once the Divine Kingdom's defenses were affected, the 3 gods would be able to easily break through. Kid, you're not using me, are you? The crystalline robe immediately bellowed. It had alarmed Zhao Feng and said this because it had sensed the arrival of a God King. It was clear that this God King had noticed that Zhao Feng had infiltrated the Divine Kingdom. It wanted to see if Zhao Feng could take it out of this place and what tricks Zhao Feng had up his sleeve. But Zhao Feng didn't seem to be in a rush, and he even had it destroy the Divine Kingdom's core first. Okay kid, I'll believe you this once. The crystalline robe was helpless against Zhao Feng. Moreover, Zhao Feng had been here for so long, and it had not notified the heaven-defying faction. This was already a form of not reporting what was going on. Swish. The crystalline robe flew to the 4th layer of the array and used the power of the space law to interfere with the array. The defensive systems of the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom immediately fell into disarray, and the defensive array began to sway. I can only interfere with it. The crystalline robe bellowed, unleashing a powerful space law that shot toward the 3rd layer of the array in a streak of light. This array was not an isolation array, so the crystalline robe was able to pass through it rather easily. At this moment, outside the 2nd layer of the array, the Right Protector was enraged. You dare to betray the heaven-defying faction? The Right Protector referred to was naturally the pseudo-ancestral artifact in Zhao Feng. On the surface, Zhao Feng was still dressed as a guard of the heaven-defying faction. The Right Protector did not believe that an outsider could infiltrate the heaven-defying faction and steal the precious resources they had painstakingly nurtured without them noticing. "Kid, do you have any ideas?" The crystalline robe was clearly fearful. "No rush." Zhao Feng was unhurried. If the pseudo-ancestral artifact had agreed earlier, Zhao Feng might have used thought teleportation to take him away. But it was too late now. Moreover, Zhao Feng had matured a great deal. He was no longer the same as he was in the past, when he was still unable to contend against the Purgatory Sacred Land's god King Charflame even when working together. Zhao Feng had even killed the strongest divine emissary. So what if it was a god king? With the help of the pseudo-ancestral artifact, Zhao Feng would be like a tiger that had grown wings. Bzz. In a flash of light, his disguise faded, revealing his true appearance. "Zhao Feng, it's you?" The Right Protector stared in disbelief at Zhao Feng's face. The ninth god eye that they had been pursuing had managed to sneak into the heaven-defying faction's divine kingdom, steal many precious resources, and even attempt to destroy the divine kingdom's core. The Right Protector felt like his heart had been stabbed by something, and it was extremely uncomfortable. The will within the crystalline robe was also rather surprised. This kid seemed to be very famous. But when it asked Zhao Feng if he had any ideas, Zhao Feng had said, "No rush." This made the Will Protector want to curse out loud. He was just a peak second heaven, and his opponent was a god king. Moreover, this was the heaven-defying faction's divine kingdom. He was in no rush. Bang! Zhao Feng immediately undid the seal on the ninth god eye and began to circulate his law energy and unleash his divine power. Vast amounts of primal chaos energy surged out and began to wreak havoc in the forbidden core. "Zhao Feng, stop." The Right Protector immediately called out, his eyes activating and releasing a gloomy mist. The pseudo-ancestral artifact had already greatly disrupted the core, and the Divine Kingdom's defenses were currently at their weakest. If they fought here, the core would definitely be further affected. Boom! Bang! Crash! At this moment, the heaven-defying faction's divine kingdom began to shake. Zhao Feng had created such a good opportunity for the three god eyes, so they would naturally use it to attack. Suddenly, a gap appeared in the heaven-defying faction's divine kingdom. Due to the destruction of the divine kingdom, the formation inside was also affected. Everyone inside the formation coughed up a mouthful of blood. At the same time, in the divine kingdom's core, the fourth layer of the array had been shattered, unleashing a dreadful forbidden storm. "Let's get out." Zhao Feng immediately called out. The pseudo-ancestral artifact had no choice but to sweep up Zhao Feng and flee. No. How could this be? The Right Protector's face was filled with hatred. The Right Protector immediately pursued the pseudo-ancestral artifact and Zhao Feng. At the same time, outside the Divine Kingdom, what's going on? The Heaven Lord's face was dark and ruthless. What had happened inside the Divine Kingdom? Why had the defensive array suddenly become so unstable, weakening its defenses and allowing the space-time god to punch a hole in it? Moreover, he could no longer bring the Divine Kingdom with him. The power of a god was far too terrifying. Entering the Divine Kingdom through that hole would result in a catastrophic disaster. Boom! The Heaven Lord thrust out a palm, sending the Divine Kingdom flying for millions of li. The interior of the Divine Kingdom was thrown into chaos. Zhao Feng's Right Protector had just charged out of the Forbidden Core. "Zhao Feng, I'll kill you." The Right Protector's face was sinister and ruthless, his left eye unleashing a dense fog. Many black figures emerged from within, all of them samsara immortal bodies. Their leader was a god king. In addition, there were 2/3 heaven god lords, and there were even more second and first heaven god lords. "You must be the person who revived divine emissary Chang." Zhao Feng had this guess when he saw the Right Protector's eye of samsara. The Right Protector was not skilled in battle, so he was responsible for controlling the interior of the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom and reviving certain members. Kill! At this moment, the Life Sacred Land's army appeared at the hole in the Divine Kingdom. The heaven-defying faction members had to deal with external enemies. "Can we escape now?" Zhao Feng smiled faintly. In this situation, even if their identities were exposed, they wouldn't be surrounded and attacked by the entire heaven-defying faction. Are you blind? You're facing a god king. The crystalline robe snorted. Even so, the situation was much better than what it had imagined. Everything just now had been far too dangerous. If the three god eyes had not broken into the heaven-defying faction divine kingdom in time, they would have been finished. So what if it's a god king? Zhao Feng smiled. At this moment, he wanted to test out this right protector. Chapter 1547. Within the heaven-defying faction divine kingdom, the three god eyes faced off against the heaven lord. It's over. The divine punishment god's expression was indifferent, his tone cold. Even if the heaven-defying faction is doomed, you can't kill me. The heaven lord savagely smiled. As long as he didn't die, it wouldn't end. The heavenly master waved his hand, and a golden saber appeared in his hand. It was covered in ancient runes and exuded an astonishing aura. It was like a peerless expert, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. Xiao Chen activated it slightly, and the golden light on it flickered, piercing through the world. Everything in the vicinity was instantly pierced through and turned to dust. Perfect law of metal. The life sovereign was slightly startled. Those who possessed perfected laws were typically godly monarchs, but this weapon possessed such powerful laws. Coupled with the ancient aura it exuded and the shocking battle intent in its attack, it proved that it was definitely not ordinary. This was an ancestral artifact. Ancestral artifact, Xingtian. The divine punishment hegemon recognized this ancestral artifact. Ancestral artifact Xingtian was the ancestral artifact of the divine martial clan during the primeval era. I didn't expect you to have such a trump card. The space-time sovereign was secretly alarmed. In the immemorial era, there was an unprecedented war between gods and devils. Countless experts died, and even true ancestral items were destroyed. Those that survived were few and far between. The Heaven Lord possessed such a powerful ancestral artifact, but he had not taken it out at the start. From this, one could see just how patient he was. This was because if he revealed an ancestral artifact, it would definitely attract the attention of other god kings and even hegemons. Even if there was no enmity between them, they would still covet the ancestral artifact and try to steal it. But at this critical moment, the Heaven Lord couldn't worry about such things and took out the ancestral artifact, Xingtian. Within the heaven-defying faction's divine kingdom, a wave of metal laws pierced through, and the members of both sides fighting within the divine kingdom felt a stabbing pain in their divine bodies and souls. And this was still within the divine kingdom. If they were outside, who knew what would happen? Has the Lord of Heaven already used that trump card? The Right Guardian's expression darkened. It seems that the heaven-defying faction has reached a dead end. Zhao Feng gave a faint smile. You guys kill him. The Right Protector gave the order and left the place. Right now, he didn't have the time to deal with Zhao Feng. He needed to move his divine kingdom and leave the battlefield. In addition, the heaven-defying faction was in a dangerous situation, so they needed to make other plans. Therefore, he could only control the heavenly kingdom and the samsara immortal body to kill Zhao Feng. A mere level 2 peak actually wants me to take action. A blue-haired old man exuding a piercingly cold aura was slightly interested in Zhao Feng. The blue-haired old man was the God King's samsara immortal body. Beside him were 2/3 heavenly layer samsara immortal bodies and many first and second heavenly layer samsara immortal bodies. Come out. Zhao Feng opened the passage to his god kingdom and released all of his subordinates and avatars. Against so many people, Zhao Feng naturally would not be careless. Moreover, they were in the middle of a great war, and this was the perfect opportunity to exterminate the heaven-defying faction. Swish, 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 figure after figure leapt out of the divine kingdom passage. There were even more of them than the Right Protector's samsara immortal bodies. Of course, Zhao Feng's subordinates were inferior to the samsara immortal bodies in terms of cultivation. Oh, kid, you have so many helpers. The crystalline robe's tone softened a little. In the previous situation, against so many experts, Zhao Feng would undoubtedly die, and it would once again be controlled by the heaven-defying faction. But now that Zhao Feng had called out so many helpers, there was a chance that he could escape. "Junior, die!" The blue-haired old man roared. An astonishing snowstorm erupted from his body, immediately plunging the surroundings into a world of ice and snow. "Kid, run!" The crystalline robe immediately shouted. It was only a divine weapon. Without anyone controlling it, it could not contend against a God King expert. And Zhao Feng was only at the peak second heavenly layer and had not obtained its recognition. Even if he refined it, he would not be able to use much of the pseudo-ancestral artifact's power. "Why run? Fight!" Zhao Feng bellowed, releasing vast primal chaos energy as he charged forward. "What?" The crystalline robe was extremely shocked. It had thought that Zhao Feng had sent his subordinates to buy time for them to escape, but it turned out that Zhao Feng was preparing for a direct battle. Primal Chaos Domain. Zhao Feng released vast primal chaos energy, forming a dark and chaotic primal chaos domain. Because his opponent was a God King, Zhao Feng had shrunk the size of the primal chaos domain to strengthen himself. Otherwise, a God King could easily break through the primal chaos domain. "Die!" The blue-haired old man waved his hand, sending a giant snowstorm descending. At this moment, Zhao Feng felt like a mountain of ice was crashing down, its momentum shaking the heavens. A powerful law of ice affected the world. Even with Zhao Feng's primal chaos energy, Zhao Feng was greatly affected. "Die!" Zhao Feng gripped the primal chaos ancestral artifact fragment, condensed a massive primal chaos tribulation lightning sword, and slashed. Last time, he had been powerless to stop the Purgatory Sacred Land's god King Charflame, but after cultivating under the guidance of the divine punishment god, his strength had undergone a massive transformation. Facing a god king again, Zhao Feng did not feel much pressure. Boom! Bang! The primal chaos tribulation lightning sword fiercely clashed with the snowstorm, sending shockwaves of energy to both sides. Zhao Feng's hands trembled as he felt a bone-chilling cold. As expected, he's not simple. The blue-haired elder gave a mocking smile, not minding it. Zhao Feng's attack just now had been extremely powerful, enough to contend against him. However, the difference in cultivation was too great. His perfected ice law gave him an enormous advantage. Is the difference in laws too great? Zhao Feng had also noticed this. Even though he had a space-time law and a lightning law, he was still at a disadvantage against a perfected ice law. At this moment, "Kid, I'll lend you a hand." The crystalline robe transformed into a dark silver light that wrapped around Zhao Feng's body. It had been prepared to escape alone, but Zhao Feng's strength had caused it to view him in a different light. Moreover, it also deeply resented the heaven-defying faction. If it could deal a heavy blow to the heaven-defying faction, it would be extremely willing. Thus, it decided to help Zhao Feng. A perfected space law immediately emerged. Although it was not very stable, it was truly a perfected law. Because Zhao Feng had not refined this pseudo-ancestral artifact, he could only borrow an extremely small portion of the robe's law energy. This was more than enough for Zhao Feng. But Zhao Feng rejoiced as he once more stared at the God King Samsara immortal body. Pseudo-ancestral artifact. The blue-haired elder's eyes flashed with cold light. Not even he had a pseudo-ancestral artifact when he was alive, but now, a peak second heaven god lord was able to obtain the favor of a pseudo-ancestral artifact. The right protector, through the vision of his samsara immortal body, had a complete understanding of the battle. He dispatched a third heaven god lord to join the blue-haired elder in dealing with Zhao Feng. "Go!" Zhao Feng called out. The black destruction dragon, his clones, the little thieving cat, and the powerful ancient beasts of the dream divine kingdom all entered the fray. Ice extinguishing god slash. The blue-haired elder unleashed a bone-chilling cold that shot toward Zhao Feng. With a wave of his hand, ice energy condensed into a crystalline slash of light that slashed down. BZZ. Zhao Feng borrowed a sliver of his perfected space law from the crystalline robe and swung the primal chaos tribulation lightning sword. The gigantic lightning sword light slash instantly rushed out and slashed at the ice crystal light slash. Bang! The two energies shattered, and the ice law was smoothly blocked by Zhao Feng's law. This time, Zhao Feng and the blue-haired elder were evenly matched. At this moment, a third heaven immortal body in the rear launched a sneak attack on Zhao Feng. Boom! An astonishing giant axe of thunder and lightning charged at him in an instant. Hey, relax. I'm a defensive-type pseudo-ancestral artifact. The crystalline robe wrapped around Zhao Feng chuckled. Although Zhao Feng couldn't use much of its power, the defensive capabilities of the pseudo-ancestral artifact were still extremely outstanding. Zhao Feng nodded and used his primal chaos domain to obstruct and restrict this lightning energy. In the end, the crystalline robe easily blocked the rest of the lightning attack, leaving Zhao Feng completely unharmed. Primal Chaos Lightning Eye. As he blocked this attack, Zhao Feng attacked, his left eye forming a Tribulation Lightning Sword seal. Kakrek. A wave of Primal Chaos Tribulation Lightning energy suddenly exploded on the blue-haired elder's body, leaving behind a large hole. Although the blue-haired elder was a samsara immortal body and had an undying body, his soul was still suffering from severe pain. Seeking death. The blue-haired elder was enraged. He waved his palms again and again, creating mountains of ice that crushed down on Zhao Feng. Boom! Bang! Crush! The Primal Chaos Tribulation Lightning Sword swiftly slashed out, shattering several mountains of ice. But an endless storm of ice mixed with enormous chunks of ice continued to explode. Primal Chaos Lightning Vortex. Zhao Feng used the energy of the Primal Chaos domain to form the Primal Chaos Lightning Vortex. Boom! Bang! Crush! The storm of ice and snow bombarded the Primal Chaos Lightning Vortex, damaging it in just a few moments. However, the interior of the Primal Chaos Lightning Vortex was the defensive layer of the pseudo-ancestral artifact. Brat, not bad. I acknowledge your strength. The crystalline robe heartily laughed. Zhao Feng charged forward, his Primal Chaos Tribulation Lightning Sword clashing with the blue-haired elder. With a sliver of the pseudo-ancestral artifact's perfected space law, Zhao Feng's speed had doubled, allowing him to dodge some of the more powerful attacks. Adding on the pseudo-ancestral artifact and defensive techniques, his defenses were not too big of a problem. As for the third heaven samsara immortal body, Zhao Feng completely ignored it. Samsara immortal bodies were definitely more difficult to deal with than true humans because they were undying, but without their original bloodline, their overall strength was slightly weaker than when they were alive. Ah! The blue-haired elder howled. The pseudo-ancestral artifact was one of the reasons he couldn't do anything to this second heaven brat, but he had to admit that Zhao Feng was extremely strong. Boom! Bang! Crush! Zhao Feng and the blue-haired elder exchanged several hundred blows, but neither side had the upper hand. But if one looked closely, the blue-haired elder was indeed injured more, as Zhao Feng's Primal Chaos Lightning Eye could not be dodged. However, the blue-haired elder was a samsara immortal body, and his body was undying and indestructible. Zhao Feng had never thought of killing a god king. Without the help of the pseudo-ancestral artifact, he would have to use all his trump cards to have a chance of contending with a god king. Although he couldn't do anything to the blue-haired elder, as a peak second heaven expert, it was a great humiliation for a god king to be able to injure a god king. Chapter 1548. Within the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom, the fires of war raged. The members of the life-sacred land had long ago invaded the interior of the Divine Kingdom, and the heaven-defying faction was gradually forced into a defensive position. Because this was the heaven-defying faction's territory, there were many heaven's legacy arrays, war weapons, and traps. The heaven-defying faction still had the ability to resist. Boom! Bang! In the center of the heaven-defying faction, Zhao Feng and his subordinates were engaged in a fierce battle with the Right Protector's samsara immortal body. The blue-haired old man roared again and again. As he waved his palms, a snowstorm swept through the world. However, with the protection of the pseudo-ancestral artifact, as long as Zhao Feng was not injured by the blue-haired elder's lethal attack, he would be fine. Chaos Lightning Eyes. Zhao Feng activated his left eye, gathering primal chaos energy and tribulation lightning energy. Boom! A thunder tribulation sword seal exploded on the blue-haired old man's body, creating a huge hole. As a samsara immortal body, the blue-haired old man's injuries healed rapidly. However, his soul was injured. However, as a god-king powerhouse, the blue-haired old man's soul was extremely powerful. If it had been an ordinary third firmament cultivator, they would have been severely injured if not killed by Zhao Feng's chaotic lightning eyes. Thousand Ice Seal. The blue-haired old man's expression was sinister and ruthless. Even if he died and became a samsara immortal body, he would not be able to endure the humiliation of being repeatedly injured by a level 2 expert. Wang hu hu. The space around Zhao Feng suddenly became cold. The ice and snow storm in the air suddenly froze and gathered towards the center. As for Zhao Feng, he sensed that the temperature was dropping. Even with the protection of the pseudo-ancestral artifact, he still felt a bone-chilling cold. It seemed that the blue-haired old man had already given it his all. The boundless ice gathered around Zhao Feng, as if it wanted to bury him forever. Dream projection. The dream origin in Zhao Feng's left eye surged with a dazzling luster. In an instant, he created a dream and merged it with the surrounding space. Under the influence of dream force, Zhao Feng's abilities were multiplied in all aspects. Buzz buzz buzz. A powerful thunder tribulation energy was released, fusing with the primal chaos domain around him. With a thought, the energy of the entire primal chaos domain surged, clashing with the surrounding ice. Of course, this wasn't enough to block the blue-haired old man's all-out attack. Zhao Feng clenched his hand, and several chaos lightning tribulation swords instantly formed in his chaos domain. With a wave of his hand, all the chaos thunder tribulation swords shot out in all directions. Gradually, the power of the ice around him weakened, and Zhao Feng wiped it away bit by bit. Dream path power? The blue-haired old man gnashed his teeth in anger. He had seen dream path power before. Dream path cultivators were extraordinarily powerful in their own dream realm power. Otherwise, even with the protection of the pseudo-ancestral artifact, Zhao Feng would still be completely frozen by this attack. In the underground base, the right protector observed the blue-haired old man's battle situation and couldn't help but sigh. Even ordinary godly monarchs can't do anything to him anymore. As a samsara immortal body, the blue-haired old man was undying and extremely difficult to deal with. However, he had lost his original divine body and the boost of his bloodline energy, so his abilities had dropped in all aspects. Zhao Feng also knew this. His battle with the blue-haired old man wasn't difficult, but if it were the illusion god race's god king Nethercloud or the left protector, he would probably find it very difficult to deal with them. These two were outstanding godly monarchs. However, Zhao Feng was only treating the blue-haired old man as a training target. Once he reached the third heaven, he would probably be able to contend against top-class godly monarchs like God King Nethercloud. Boom, bang, crash. The two fiercely clashed for several hundred moves, but neither could do anything to the other. At this moment, the Life's Sacred Land army had broken through the heaven-defying faction's defenses and was attacking the central island. Retreat. The left protector and right protector piloted two black gold warships, carrying their members, and chose to retreat. If they couldn't even defend against their own divine kingdom, there was no point in continuing to fight. The blue-haired old man snorted, viciously glaring at Zhao Feng as he reluctantly retreated. The other samsara immortal bodies also began to flee. Zhao Feng did not pursue. After all, samsara immortal bodies were far too difficult to kill. On the other hand, although the heaven-defying faction had retreated, it had probably left quite a few treasures behind that they hadn't been able to move. The majority of the Life's Sacred Land army left in pursuit, while a small number remained in the Heaven's Legacy race divine kingdom. The heaven-defying faction is doomed. The crystalline robe sighed. He hadn't expected for the powerful heaven-defying faction to face such a day. But their opponents were three god-eye deities, so there was nothing they could do about it. I wonder if the three god eyes can kill the Heaven Lord. Zhao Feng mentally muttered to himself. As long as the Heaven Lord wasn't dead, he would never be able to rest easy. Although no god had ever died since the 8 great god eyes were born. But if 3 gods work together, They should be able to kill a god. The sky above the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom was dark. Die! The Heaven Lord gripped the ancestral artifact Xingtian and swung it down, unleashing a dazzling beam of golden light that seemed capable of cleaving the world in two. In the face of such a powerful Heaven Lord, the three god-eye deities chose to retreat. In terms of attack power, none of them could compare to the Heaven Lord, but they were still rather confident in their ability to kill him. After all, they had three god-eyes working together, and they could exhaust the Heaven Lord to death. Tens of millions of li away, three figures were hidden in the void. Is the heaven-defying faction really that strong? Not even the three god-eyes working together could kill it. A curvaceous woman in a dark purple dress chuckled. Kiki, the three of them have probably sensed our presence and don't plan on fighting to the death with the Heaven Lord. They want to exhaust the owner of the heavenly Dao God-Eye to death with low casualties. The Death God wickedly chuckled. Are they afraid that we'll just sit back and reap the benefits? An elder in a luxurious golden robe softly said, I believe that it's better for us to attack, lest the Heaven's Legacy race member escape. Besides, in a direct battle, the three of us are stronger. The woman faintly smiled. The three of them were the Death God, the Destruction God, and the Samsara God. The Destruction God and Death God were extremely powerful, but the Samsara God had a Samsara immortal body, making her even more difficult to deal with. In terms of fighting power, the three of them truly did have the advantage. The Divine Punishment God had the Life God, who was more skilled in attrition and protracted battles. That's fine. This Xingtian is an ancestral artifact that suits my taste. The Destruction God's eyes flashed with sharp light as he appeared determined to win. Okay, let's do it. The Death God sternly said. According to his scouts, the heaven-defying faction had already fallen into a disadvantageous position in the Divine Kingdom and was forced to retreat. He was more interested in the Heaven's Legacy race's research, especially the Heavenly Dao Ancestral Eye. He could not let anyone else get it first. After finishing their discussion, the three God-Eye deities vanished. On the God battlefield, the world was shattered and forbidden storms were blowing everywhere. Even a second Heaven God Lord would die if they weren't careful. Boom, bang, crush. The Heaven Lord's attacks were invincible, forcing the three God-Eyes to retreat. You can't kill me, so why don't we just drop the matter? The Heaven's Legacy race is willing to compensate. The Heaven Lord proposed to the three God-Eyes. He seemed powerful, but he was fighting against three God-Eye deities, especially one with the Life God-Eye. Victory was practically impossible. The Divine Punishment God frowned. If they weren't on guard against the other God-Eyes hiding in the shadows, the three of them would have already heavily injured the Heaven Lord. Suddenly, the three God-Eye deities grimaced. At this moment, a resounding and tyrannical voice resounded. You want to drop the matter? If you dare to touch one of the 8 great God-Eyes, you'll have to pay with your life. In a flash of golden light, a golden-robed elder appeared. Swish! A stooped and gloomy old man appeared beside him. Behind the two of them was a woman with an enchanting figure and light footsteps. She slowly walked forward. And here I thought that the three of you would continue hiding like turtles. The space-time god sneered. It's just that you're too useless. 3 against 1 and you still can't end the battle. We'll have to step in. The Death God sinisterly laughed. At this moment, 6 of the 8 great God-Eyes had appeared. The entire world was twisted and oppressive. I didn't think that 6 God-Eye deities would appear together. The Heaven Lord suddenly laughed. The 6 God-Eye deities turned to the Heaven Lord. They were forced to admit that this man was truly powerful. But the Heaven Lord's actions made him an enemy of the 8 great God-Eyes. In the era of the 8 great God-Eyes, the Heaven Lord was bound to lose. Although I can't obtain the origins of the 8 great God-Eyes and fuse them with the Heavenly Dao Ancestral Eye, taking 6 God-Eye deities down with me isn't bad. The Heaven Lord's origin energy began to burn. Do you have any other trump cards? The space-time god's eyes flashed as he swiftly retreated. The other gods warily backed away, but they still stared at the Heaven Lord. Reversal. The Heaven Lord immediately activated his Heavenly Dao God Eye, causing the entire world to reverse. The retreating gods began to approach the Heaven Lord. But this effect lasted only a moment. The 6 gods turned around and retreated once more. Explode! The Heaven Lord suddenly slapped his other hand on the ancestral artifact Heaven Punishment, unleashing a terrifying metal law energy that shook the world. You're crazy. You actually detonated the ancestral artifact? The destruction god bellowed in shock. He had taken a liking to this ancestral artifact, but the Heaven Lord actually wanted to destroy it before his death? Although he was reluctant, the destruction god had no choice but to retreat. The explosion of an ancestral artifact was no joke. Die! The Heaven Lord gave a despairing smile, and even the origin energy in his body began to burn. Boom! Bang! The ancestral artifact Xingtian exploded, and a world-shaking power spread out. Heaven and earth shattered, shattering inch by inch. Everything turned into ashes. The distant heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom also suffered a massive impact. The remaining people in the Divine Kingdom sensed that something was wrong. Thump thump, thump thump. Zhao Feng's left eye began to pulse, warning Zhao Feng. Let's get out of here first. Zhao Feng put all his subordinates into the ancient dream realm and fled with the pseudo-ancestral artifact. In the outside world, the world was in chaos, and terrifying storms were wreaking havoc. What happened? Zhao Feng retreated in shock. Near the explosion of the ancestral artifact, the clothes of the 6 god-eye deities were in tatters, and their expressions were wretched. Trying to run? The 6 hegemons chased after him. They could sense that the Heaven Lord had not died, that he had fled before the ancestral artifact detonated. He actually destroyed an ancestral item. The Destruction Sovereign had a venomous look on his face. Can't we escape? The Heaven Lord's face was ghastly pale as he sighed. Although he had detonated his ancestral artifact, he had not been able to kill the 6 god eyes, only push them back. However, the Heaven Lord had also been heavily injured. The 6 hegemons closed in at high speed. The Heaven Lord roared. With a wave of his hand, the distant heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom flew toward him. Since you are so stubborn, then let's die together. The Heaven Lord's face was filled with despair and madness. Buzz. In his body, origin energy burned, and a terrifying power brewed. The heaven-defying faction's god nation also came to his side. Not good. The 6 gods, who had just gotten close to the Heaven Lord, realized that something was wrong. Let's die together. Destructive energy erupted from the Heaven Lord's body. The Heaven Lord also detonated the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom. Boom! A heaven-shaking explosion resounded through the world, obliterating everything. Chapter 1549. This explosion was like the source of destruction, devouring everything in the world. All of the Xiling zone could feel the tremor. Zhao Feng wasn't even at the edge of the explosion, but he was still pushed back several thousand li by the shockwaves. If not for the defense of the pseudo-ancestral artifact, he would have lost a layer of skin. Boom! The power of the explosion continued to spread, exuding a dreadful ancient forbidden energy that devoured all. How terrifying! Zhao Feng's heart palpitated in fear. Even a normal third heaven god lord at the edge of the explosion would be doomed. It was hard to imagine just what had happened in a battle between gods. But when Zhao Feng left the Divine Kingdom, he sensed the energy of the 6 god eyes, so he speculated that the Heaven Lord would fail. On the other side, the fleeing Heaven's Legacy race members and the pursuing Life's Sacred Land members were all trembling in fear. Fortunately, they had left the Divine Kingdom and distanced themselves from the battlefield of gods. Otherwise, they really would have become cannon fodder for the gods. Of course, there were quite a few people left in the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom, and since the Divine Kingdom was at the center of the explosion, they had completely vanished from the world. Kaboom! The storm did not disperse for a long time. Near the center of the explosion, cough, cough. This scoundrel actually detonated his Divine Kingdom and even burned his origin energy. A dissatisfied voice rang out as a golden-robed elder appeared. The Heaven Lord's origin energy was the energy of the ancient race. One could easily imagine the power of that terrifying explosive divine power to create an explosion. Moreover, the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom itself was an enormous treasury. It contained many heaven's legacy arrays and mechanical devices, as well as the bloodlines of the 10,000 ancient races. If all of these things exploded, the power they would produce would be unimaginable. How dangerous! He almost killed me. Another resentful female voice rang out. It's all thanks to your samsara immortal bodies. Otherwise, our situation would have been even worse. The death god's figure gradually appeared, his face pale. They had been rather close to the Heaven Lord at the time of the explosion, so they were in extreme danger. Fortunately, the samsara god's many samsara immortal bodies blocked the way, blocking part of the explosion's power and buying them time to escape. But even so, their injuries were severe, and their god-eye origins had been ravaged. After all, they had been injured by the self-detonation of the ancestral artifact, Xingtian. Not far behind. I can't believe the three of you are still alive. A disdainful voice rang out as the space-time hegemon and the other two hegemons appeared. From the looks of the three of them, their situation was not much better. Although the space-time ruler had the advantage of speed, she hadn't been able to get very far. Their defensive measures were far inferior to the samsara ruler's human wall of samsara immortal bodies. Hee, you're not dead yet, how could I go first? The Destruction Chief Sovereign's gaze turned cold, and he countered with equal harshness. Let's go. He's not dead yet. We must kill him. The Divine Punishment God snorted and vanished in a bolt of lightning. The Space-Time Sovereign and the Life Sovereign moved out as well. At the moment of the explosion, all 6 God Eyes sensed that the Heaven Lord had fled. But in order to increase the power of the explosion, the Heaven Lord had burned a great deal of origin energy, having his strength. The Heaven Lord himself could not have been able to avoid the explosion in time. Of course, this wasn't the only time. The Heaven Lord had also been affected by the explosion of the ancestral artifact. Thus, the Heaven Lord was probably extremely weak at this time. As the Heaven Lord fled, the 6 God Eyes sensed the Heaven Lord's weakening energy. Something's wrong. The Death God's pitch-black eyes flashed with a strange light. Based on the conjectures of the God Eyes, the Heaven Lord truly was extremely weak at this time. Any god could easily kill him. But the Divine Punishment God and the Space-Time Sovereign were clearly heavily injured, and their origins had been injured. Instead of letting the Life Sovereign heal them, they were in such a rush to pursue. This made him feel extremely strange. At this moment, aren't you curious as to why the 3 of them are in such a rush to kill the Heaven Lord? The Samsara God Eye gave a strange and bewitching smile. What secret is there? The Destruction God grimaced. I have my Samsara immortal bodies in the Life Sacred Land Army. Before the Divine Kingdom exploded, they discovered an astonishing secret while searching the Divine Kingdom. God Eye owners and God Eye descendants might be able to obtain the power of the Heavenly Tao God Eye by killing the Heaven Lord. The Samsara God explained everything in one go. The Heaven Lord could kill God Eyes and obtain their God Eye origins, allowing him to complete his final plan of creating the Heavenly Tao Ancestral Eye. On the other hand, God Eye deities could kill the Heaven Lord and obtain the power of the Heavenly Tao God Eye, perhaps even realizing this plan. This also meant that the Heaven Lord was not the only one who could fuse with the Heavenly Tao Ancestral Eye. Anyone else could as long as they obtained the power of the Heavenly Tao God Eye. What? The Death God grimaced, his ghastly and savage face appearing sinister and terrifying. The power of the Heavenly Tao Ancestral Eye? The Destruction God's mind was stunned. If they, who had God Eyes, killed the Heaven Lord and obtained this power, just how powerful would their God Eyes become? The Samsara God did not say that after obtaining the Heavenly Tao energy, any God Eye deity could continue the Heaven Lord's plan and fuse with the Heavenly Tao Ancestral Eye. But the other God Eyes were no fools and could guess at this point. I didn't think that you would tell us such an important matter. The Death God gave a strange smile, his heart filled with suspicion. If it were him, he would definitely hide it and pursue the Heaven Lord alone. After all, the Heaven Lord was extremely weak at this time. A single god-eye deity could easily kill him. We're on the same side, and besides, I'm no match for life, divine punishment, and space-time. The Samsara god said matter-of-factly. This was one reason. The other reason was that there were quite a few people left in the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom. Almost all of them learned of this and immediately sent word to the factions behind the scenes. In this battle, many factions had assisted the life-sacred land in attacking the heaven-defying faction. Thus, there were probably quite a few factions that learned of this news. Moreover, this news concerned the entire ancient desolate realm of gods. Even if the Samsara god hadn't said anything, it wouldn't have taken long for this news to spread throughout the ancient desolate realm of gods. Moreover, the Samsara god believed that none of the other gods could compare to her when it came to finding people. Let's move. We can't let them obtain this power. The destruction god was impatient. The death god nodded. Buzz. Bzz. The Samsara god's eyes began to turn, unleashing a dusk fog that seemed to come from the underworld. One figure after another flew out, several thousand of them. Of course, the majority of these people did not have very high cultivations. Those with relatively high cultivations had all been sacrificed in blocking the Heaven Lord's explosion and would not be able to revive for some time. Go. Search for this person. If you find anything, inform me immediately. After doing all this, the Samsara god began to leave. The other two gods also began to move out. On the surface, the three god eyes were still on the same side. But in reality, all of them were independent, because any one of them who obtained the power of the heavenly Tao God Eye would be able to stand at the apex of God Eyes, possessing the power to look down upon the ancient desolate realm. There was even a chance that they could fuse with the heavenly Tao ancestral eye and obtain this supreme and perfect power. The curtain had finally fallen on the life-sacred land and the heaven-defying faction's monstrous battle. But at the same time, another battle had begun. That was the battle for the heavenly Tao God Eye. In the distance, Zhao Feng floated in the tattered void. Too terrifying. A battle between gods. Zhao Feng sighed. Nearly half of the Xiling zone had been swept up in this battle. And this was only because the battle between gods hadn't lasted too long and hadn't been carried out on a large scale. Otherwise, the entire Xiling zone would have been destroyed. The heaven-defying faction has offended the 8 great god eyes. It's finally over. Zhao Feng breathed a sigh of relief. But for some reason his dream god eye still felt tense. At this moment, Zhao Yufei sent him a message. What? Zhao Feng grimaced. At this moment, while Zhao Yufei was with the Life-Sacred Land Army, the news that other god eye deities could also steal the heavenly Tao god eye's power had already spread. Even if the Heaven Lord lost, the entire ancient desolate realm of gods will not have peace. Zhao Feng's brow furrowed. The Heaven Lord was not dead, but he was heavily injured and weak. At this moment, the 6 god eyes were in pursuit. Kid, what's going on? The crystalline robe asked. The heaven-defying faction had already been defeated and the Heaven Lord was doomed to die, but Zhao Feng was still asking such a question. It's not that simple. Zhao Feng gave a simple explanation of what had happened. So that's how it is. The crystalline robe was stunned. The current situation truly was not much better. Although the Heaven Lord had been defeated, any god eye that obtained the power of the heavenly Tao god eye would undoubtedly become an even greater threat than the Heaven Lord. Of course, an ordinary god lord or god king would not be as much of a threat if they obtained this power, but they would still face the possibility of stealing it. This was going to be a struggle that was hard to predict and difficult to end. Unless the person who obtained the heavenly Tao god eye was able to resist the temptation of that power and destroy it. Let's go and rest for a while. Zhao Feng sighed. This battle had been quite tiring. You're not going to fight for the heavenly Tao god eye? The robe was surprised. He did not believe that Zhao Feng did not desire this power. Zhao Feng truly did desire this power. Once he obtained it, his strength would soar to the point where he would even be able to contend against god eye deities. I'm alone and can't compare to the 8 great god eyes. Even if I obtain it, I'll be hunted down by many god eyes. Zhao Feng shook his head. At the very least, that was the case for now. Moreover, how could he compare to the vast network of God-eye deities when it came to finding people? His chances were far too low. I'll break into the third heaven first. Zhao Feng made his decision. Once he broke through, if the matter of the heavenly Dao God-eye was not resolved, he could still participate in the struggle. Zhao Feng did not return. He found a secluded place in the Xiling zone, entered his divine kingdom, and began to cultivate. In the outside world, news continued to spread from the Xiling zone to the surrounding zones, all the way to the 18 savage desolate zones. The struggle for the heavenly Dao God-eye had begun. Chapter 1550. Zhao Feng returned to the Dream Divine Kingdom and rested for a few days. He began to negotiate with the pseudo-ancestral artifact. In the end, the pseudo-ancestral artifact agreed to temporarily follow Zhao Feng for 1 million years. After 1 million years, it would not restrict its freedom. The pseudo-ancestral artifact followed Zhao Feng naturally because Zhao Feng had saved it. But the Heaven Lord's actions had enraged the 6 God-eyes, and the heaven-defying faction was doomed. It did not need Zhao Feng to save it to gain its freedom. Thus, the pseudo-ancestral artifact would only follow Zhao Feng for 1 million years. But for Zhao Feng, 1 million years was enough. He was confident that he could fully utilize the power of the Dream God-eye and become a God-eye deity. At that time, the pseudo-ancestral artifact would no longer be necessary. Zhao Feng spent some time refining the pseudo-ancestral artifact. In the process, Zhao Feng also fused the space ancestral artifact fragment in his hand into it. They had originally been one. 5 months later, Zhao Feng completely refined the pseudo-ancestral artifact. This space pseudo-ancestral artifact had been called Heaven Ascendant when it was complete. Although it was now just a pseudo-ancestral artifact, the complete Heaven Ascendant was no longer around, so it was fine for Zhao Feng to call it Heaven Ascendant. After swapping out the space-time robe and putting on Heaven Ascendant, Zhao Feng immediately felt like he had complete control over space energy. He even felt like he was standing above space itself. With Heaven Ascendant, even without using the power of the Dream God-eye, I can fight against a normal God King. After testing out Heaven Ascendant's power, Zhao Feng had this conjecture. With Zhao Feng's defensive skills and Heaven Ascendant's defenses, he could easily block the ordinary attacks of a God King. Against a God King that was not skilled in speed, Zhao Feng could hold the advantage in speed. Refining the pseudo-ancestral artifact not only boosted his strength, but also pushed his cultivation. The pseudo-ancestral artifact itself contained a perfected space law. After refining it, Zhao Feng could comprehend this space law at any time, greatly boosting his comprehension of space. Arriving at the core of the Divine Kingdom, Zhao Feng sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. The flow of time in the God Kingdom was different from the outside world, so Zhao Feng had plenty of time. Now, Zhao Feng's goal was to break through to the third heaven. Before that, Zhao Feng could use the resources he had plundered from the heaven-defying faction's Divine Kingdom to strengthen his foundations. First, Zhao Feng took out the 9 thunder heavenly bamboo. Immediately, the invisible power of thunder and lightning gathered in the sky above the 9 lightning heaven bamboo, forming a domain of thunder that fell continuously. Zhao Feng closed his eyes slightly. His soul will spread out and seeped into the 9 thunder heaven bamboo. After comprehending for a period of time, Zhao Feng entered a meditative state and absorbed the essence of the 9 thunder heaven bamboo. In an instant, he felt his comprehension of the law of lightning surging into his mind. Time passed quickly. Zhao Feng had been cultivating for several years, but only a few days had passed in the outside world. At this moment, all of the ancient desolate realm of gods was alarmed by a certain rumor. If the 8 great God-eyes killed the Heaven Lord, they would obtain the power of the heavenly Dao God-eye and surpass gods. They might even be able to complete the Heaven Lord's unfinished plan. Of course, it wasn't just the 8 great God-eyes. God-eye descendants might also be able to steal this power and become new gods. This made countless God-eye descendants scramble for the heavenly Dao God-eye. There were even some experts who were not God-eye descendants but possessed other eyes that held a sliver of hope. Many experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods had formed an alliance with the goal of eliminating the heavenly Tao God Eye. In the southwestern part of the ancient desolate realm of gods, in the dazzling light zone, the factions of the nearby zones had gathered here. In the Golden Crow's sacred land, the bright sun god sat on his throne, his dazzling golden red eyes exuding a scorching light that no one dared to look directly at. Besides the bright sun god, all the god kings of the nearby zones had come, including the Tianhe zone's god king Charflame, who had fought with Zhao Feng's group before. The reason I have gathered everyone here is extremely simple. Search for the Heaven Lord and destroy the heavenly Tao God Eye. The bright sun god sat on his throne, exuding boundless majesty. The Tianhe zone agrees with the bright sun god. God King Charflame immediately expressed his stance. As long as the power of the heavenly Tao God Eye existed, it would severely affect the balance of the ancient desolate realm of gods. Any God Eye deity that obtained this power could become the next Heaven Lord. Thus, this power had to be destroyed. The Linglong zone will do its utmost. A woman with the appearance of a celestial fairy stood up. She was a god king of the Linglong zone's sacred land. At that instant, a formidable aura descended upon the place. All the power in the world seemed to be changing, gathering outside. Space within the hall seemed to freeze. Even god lords felt an enormous pressure that made it difficult for them to move. Myriad forms God, I didn't think that you would have the time to visit me. The bright sun god said, his expression grave. In the next moment, an old man appeared in the palace hall. His eyes were in the shape of a vortex, and multicolored radiance flowed within them. The old man's hair was also of various colors. Furthermore, it was extremely natural. It was like the sky, the earth, the mountains, and the rivers. The myriad forms God? One of the God Eye deities. Many experts in the hall were panicking. They were just discussing how to destroy the heavenly Tao God Eye, and now one of the God Eye deities had appeared? Quite a few people even wondered if the myriad forms God had come to make trouble. At this moment, the myriad forms God finally spoke. I also agree with your view. Many people in the hall were stunned. None of them had expected the myriad forms God to say such a thing. Myriad forms, you truly did not disappoint me. The bright sun god smiled. The god kings present might have known that the bright sun god and the myriad forms God had a rather good relationship. Both of them were indifferent to fame and wealth and liked to wander the world. If not for the appearance of the heavenly Tao God Eye, the bright sun god would have not returned to the sacred land for several 100 million years. We cannot allow this power to disturb the balance of nature. I will also help. The myriad forms God sternly said. It wasn't just this place. Alliances of various sizes had been formed in other parts of the ancient desolate realm of gods with the goal of destroying the heavenly Tao God Eye. The power of the heavenly Tao God Eye was extremely alluring to the 8 great God Eyes and God Eye descendants, but it was of little use to the other God kings. Moreover, the other God kings and gods did not wish for the God Eye factions to obtain this power. The top-class experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods began to move, including the God kings and gods who had been in seclusion for hundreds of millions of years. Perhaps it was because the Heaven Lord was a member of the Heaven's legacy race with divination and the special abilities of the heavenly Tao God Eye, but the Heaven Lord had only appeared a few times, but he had not been captured and was still fleeing. What was certain was that the Heaven Lord was being hunted by the entire ancient desolate realm of gods and had no time to rest. Moreover, his god origin had been heavily injured and exhausted, and he could not recover from it in a short time. Thus, the Heaven Lord was not much stronger than when he was fleeing from the God Eyes. The 6 God Eyes continued to madly search for the Heaven Lord. Within the Dream Divine Kingdom, Zhao Feng had been in seclusion for a long time. Next to him was a withered tree of dark silver, with several bright silver leaves. This was none other than the space-type treasure, the Space Spirit Tree. Beneath the Space Spirit Tree was a round piece of jade that glowed with moonlight. This was the space-type treasure, the Void Profound Spirit Jade. He had long ago finished cultivating the Lightning Tao, and Zhao Feng had also spent some time comprehending the time law. At this moment, he was concentrating on comprehending the space law. Within his body, the primal chaos scripture began to circulate. Zhao Feng was ready to break into the third heaven. One day, in the northern region of the ancient desolate realm of gods, a golden figure flew by, exuding a powerful divine sense that carefully searched every inch of the world. This golden figure was the God King of the Tongtai Zone, God King Heaven Dragon. Back in the Tongtai Zone, he had personally searched for Zhao Feng, but in the end, Zhao Feng had escaped from his clone. God King Heaven Dragon suddenly sensed that something was wrong. He focused his mind and slowly moved. At this moment, boom, bang, the space in the distance twisted open, and a white-robed figure charged out. Heaven Lord! God King Heaven Dragon grimaced. However, the Heaven Lord's aura was extremely weak and chaotic. His eyes were dim, and the vertical eye on his forehead was closed. After him, we can't let him go. God King Heaven Dragon immediately pursued, taking out a token. After sensing for a while, God King Heaven Dragon smiled. He had also joined the Bright Sun Gods Alliance. This token allowed him to sense the experts of the alliance within a certain range. God King Heaven Dragon doggedly pursued, and it didn't take long before another God King appeared in front of the Heaven Lord. You can't escape. God King Heaven Dragon heartily laughed. He couldn't obtain the Heavenly Tao God Eye, but the Heaven Lord had more than one treasure. It was rumored that he also had many ancestral artifact fragments and even pseudo-ancestral artifacts. The pseudo-ancestral artifact Blazing Hell had appeared before. Moreover, the Bright Sun God had promised that if anyone in the alliance killed the Heaven Lord, he would do everything in his power to help that person. 3 favors from a hegemon were extremely valuable even to a God King. The Heaven Lord's face was dark and furious. With a wave of his hand, the pseudo-ancestral artifact Blazing Hell appeared. Scram! The Heaven Lord roared as he activated the pseudo-ancestral artifact, unleashing boundless flames that wreaked havoc through the world. But when God King Heaven Dragon and another God King skilled in the water law worked together, they possessed extraordinary power. Boom, bang, crash. The 2 God Kings were working together to pincer the Heaven Lord, making it difficult for him to deal with them. You 2 fleas. At my peak, this old man could have killed you with a single finger. The Heaven Lord roared in frustration. You've reached the end of your road. There's no chance for you to return to your peak. God King Gold Dragon heartily laughed. He and the other God King continued to press forward. Scram! The Heaven Lord roared, his body erupting with a golden-silver light that pushed back the 2 God Kings. This energy was none other than the power of the ancient race bloodline. As he pushed back the 2 God Kings, the Heaven Lord activated the Heavenly Tao God Eye to increase his speed and flee. He's already spent. Don't let him run. God King Gold Dragon and the other God King immediately pursued. At the same time, the news of the Heaven Lord's appearance began to spread, and the experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods began to gather in the north. This included the 7 great God Eyes besides the Destiny God Eye. While the entire ancient desolate realm of gods was reeling over the Heavenly Tao God Eye, the Sage faction, on the other hand, was extremely peaceful. One reason was that the majority of the members of the Sage faction were not skilled in battle. The other reason was that the Heaven Lord, who had the Heavenly Tao God Eye and the ancient race bloodline, was very difficult to divine. Of course, not everyone could do it. Yu Tianwu and Lu Qinxin had been in seclusion this entire time, doing all they could to divine the Heaven Lord's situation. The other sages were also waiting for Lord Tianwu's results and orders. On this day, Yu Tianwu opened his eyes. The danger from Yu Tianshu still exists, and it's enormous. The Yu Tianshu that Yu Tianwu spoke of was the Heaven Lord of the Heaven-defying faction. At the same time, Yu Tianwu messaged Lu Qinxin, "Qinxin, what did your eyes see?" The scene is very blurry, and it's hard to describe the exact situation, but my eyes can sense that a God Eye is about to fall. Chapter 1551. The Xiling Zone. Within the Dream Divine Kingdom, Zhao Feng was immersed in cultivation, completely unaware of what was happening in the outside world. At this moment, he was trying to break through the barrier of the third heaven. Beside him, the heaven void silver leaf on the space spirit tree emitted powerful spatial fluctuations, causing the surrounding space to overlap, making it hard to tell what was real and what was fake. Down below, the void profound spirit jade released a space-time essence that Zhao Feng absorbed and comprehended. Inside Zhao Feng's body, the primal chaos scripture began to circulate, and a huge amount of chaos divine power surged and gradually gathered at the god altar in his body. As the third altar slowly took shape on top of the two-tiered altar. While the god altars were being constructed, the two god altars below were surging with chaos divine energy and pouring into the third god altar. At the same time, Zhao Feng was still comprehending the law of space, trying to break through the threshold of large success. With the space spiritual tree and the void profound spirit stone, breaking through the space law wouldn't be a problem. Therefore, Zhao Feng focused more of his energy on the construction and consolidation of the altar. Of course, Zhao Feng had not forgotten that when he obtained the primal chaos scripture, he had also obtained some remnant God King level primal chaos energy. If I can fuse a portion of God King level chaotic force into the third level of the God altar, my foundation will be even more stable. Zhao Feng pondered. If it was a true God King level primal chaos force, doing so would undoubtedly be extremely dangerous. However, this chaotic force had experienced too much time, and its quality was not as good as it was at the beginning, so it was worth a try. Meanwhile, ancient desolate realm of gods, north. News of the Heaven Lord's appearance first reached the Bright Sun Gods Alliance, but it was naturally impossible to keep such important news under wraps. The next day, the news spread like wildfire throughout the Wildlands. Many experts gathered towards the northern part of the ancient desolate realm of gods. There was only one heavenly Tao God Eye, and there were far too many people who wanted it and far too many people who wanted to destroy it. Everyone was racing against time as they gathered towards the north and searched every inch of the world. In a dark forest somewhere, a white-robed old man suddenly appeared out of thin air. "Let's hope our luck is good." The Heaven Lord sighed and began to flee. Meanwhile, a black figure was flying rapidly between heaven and earth. "Heaven Lord!" The black figure paused and cried out in alarm. "Die!" The Heavenly Lord bellowed and punched out. The powerful and domineering fist shadow whizzed forward. His opponent was only a third heaven. Even a heavily injured Heaven Lord could be easily dealt with. Who? Fist shadows whizzed past and engulfed the Divine Master's figure. Not good, Samsara immortal body. The Heavenly Lord sensed that something was wrong. When he killed the other party, he didn't feel a strong death aura. From this, it was very likely that the other party was a Samsara immortal body. Although the Samsara immortal body was undying and indestructible, if it was completely erased in an instant, it would be very difficult to recover unless its master revived it. The Heaven Lord swiftly left. However, the owner of the dead Samsara immortal body seemed to be extremely powerful. A few seconds later, 3 more Samsara immortal bodies appeared in the Heaven Lord's vision. Rumble! The Heaven Lord swung his fists, instantly obliterating them. However, not long after, a few hundred Samsara immortal bodies arrived. There are so many Samsara immortal bodies, and their cultivations are not low. Could it be? The Heaven Lord speculated. Yes, it's me. Your time of death has come. A ghastly chuckle drifted over. In a certain direction, many Samsara immortal bodies made way for a woman in a dark purple dress. Her steps were gentle as she slowly walked over. This person was none other than the Samsara God. The Samsara God had countless slaves in her Samsara, and they shared the Samsara God's vision. She had spies in the major alliances of the ancient desolate realm of gods, and many Samsara immortal bodies were hidden among the 6 God Eyes. The Samsara God herself was one of the people who had been tracking the Heaven Lord from the very start. I didn't think that the Samsara God would show herself for me. The Heaven Lord couldn't help but smile. In normal circumstances, the Samsara God, who was not skilled in combat, would hide behind the curtains and have the Samsara immortal bodies do everything for her. The Samsara God had only appeared this time because she had no other choice. The Heaven Lord's 2 explosions had almost completely obliterated the Samsara God's powerful immortal bodies. And the heavily injured samsara god had no time to rest, nor did she have the time to revive them. The samsara god did not have any powerful samsara immortal bodies to deal with the heaven lord. Thus, the samsara god had to personally take action. Even if she was not skilled in combat, she was still a god, her fighting power far surpassing that of a god king. Moreover, based on the intelligence reports, the heaven lord's injuries were so severe that he could not even fully open his heavenly Tao god eye. Even when facing two god kings, he could only flee. Just obediently be my samsara immortal body. I'll take good care of you. The samsara god bewitchingly smiled, her eyes glimmering with a greedy and wicked light as she stared at the heavenly Tao god eye on the heaven lord's forehead. Heh, it seems like this old man's luck isn't bad. The heaven lord suddenly smiled, his smile suffused with desire, confidence, and tyranny. The samsara god's brow creased. The heaven lord was still able to smile in such a desperate situation. But a moment later, she grimaced. Boom! A primordial and ancient energy erupted from the heaven lord's body. His body transformed into a god-devil body 100 feet tall, covered in golden-silver light and exuding a tyrannical energy that could suppress all things. Moreover, the heavenly Tao god eye on the heaven lord's forehead suddenly opened. Those 8 eyes stared at the samsara sovereign. No, impossible. Weren't you heavily injured? The samsara god eye was stunned. At this moment, the god lord was like a patient suffering from an incurable disease that had suddenly recovered. She sensed that, although the heaven lord was injured, his injuries were much better than the samsara god's and not as severe as she imagined. But even so, the samsara god eye did not dare to fight the heaven lord head-on. One had to realize that not even the space-time god, skilled in combat and invincible in speed, was a match for the heaven lord. The heaven lord's face chilled as the heavenly Tao god eye on his forehead began to turn. Lightning, fire, and lightning exploded in the air, causing space to crumble and terrifying storms to shake the world. Protect me! The samsara god called out as she rapidly retreated. Although her injuries were about the same as the heaven lord's, even at her peak, she would not have dared to fight the heaven lord head-on, and she had sacrificed all her powerful samsara immortal bodies. Boom! Bang! Crush! The power of a god could dominate a region of the world. All living beings in this dimension were instantly annihilated. The countless samsara immortal bodies vanished in the blink of an eye. Samsara bind. The samsara god activated her samsara god eye, unleashing a gloomy mist that could not be dispelled. The samsara god knew that her samsara immortal bodies were no match for the heaven lord. Thus, when the heaven lord attacked, she had prepared this move. Hisses. The gloomy mist surrounded the heaven lord and sealed him within. At the same time, the samsara god fled. You want to trap me with just this? The heaven lord heartily laughed, the heavenly Tao god eye erupting with destructive energy. Boom! Bang! In a flash, the samsara god's power binding him collapsed. The heaven lord had studied the 8 great god eyes more deeply than anyone else. The samsara god's attack could not be broken by ordinary methods, so he immediately used the power of the heavenly Tao god eye. He had to kill the samsara god as quickly as possible. Bang! A fist punched out, golden and silver divine light piercing through the world and destroying all in its path. No! The samsara god screamed in fear. The samsara god's main body was the weakest of the 8 great god eyes, second only to the destiny god eye. The heaven lord's fist was an attack that she found difficult to defend against. The majority of the samsara god's body was turned to dust. But the samsara god herself was the strongest samsara immortal body. Hisses. The samsara god's body gradually recovered. Ancient heaven shakes the heavens. The heaven lord brought his hands together and roared, unleashing vast amounts of ancient race bloodline energy that caused the entire dimension to tremble. Kaboom! A golden and silver divine seal condensed in the sky, exuding a dreadful suppressive power as it rumbled down. The samsara god could not dodge and was suppressed. How could this be? What's going on with your injuries? The samsara god stared in fear at the heaven lord, unable to understand. The The Heaven Lord that had escaped from 6 god eyes clearly had a weak aura that not even 2 god kings could deal with. How could he suddenly become so strong? Was everything just an act? But not even the illusion god race, skilled in disguise, could deceive the god eyes. Die! The Heaven Lord found it hard to suppress his laughter. At this moment, all he wanted to do was kill the Samsara god. He had no time to answer her questions. Boom! Bang! Crush! The heavenly Tao God Eye activated, and the power of the ancient golden and silver divine seal gradually increased, dealing a destructive blow to the Samsara god. The Samsara god's body was constantly being destroyed and healed, but there was a limit to all this. Once her Samsara origin was used up, she would no longer be able to revive. Heaven Lord, your plan won't succeed. The Samsara god clenched her teeth and activated the Samsara of Life God Eye. She could not escape from the Heaven Lord's hands, and if this stalemate continued, she would die. Thus, she chose to use the Samsara of Life God Eye to reincarnate. After reincarnation, the Samsara God Eye would still be with her, and she would once more become the Samsara god. And the Heaven Lord's display of such power was certain to alarm others. This also meant that the Heaven Lord's disguise had been exposed, and he could no longer use the same plan to kill a second god eye. Hisses. The Samsara god's body and soul transformed into a streak of light that surged into the Samsara of Life God Eye. In front of the heavenly Tao God Eye, I control all laws and order. The heavenly Tao God Eye on the Heaven Lord's forehead flashed with sharp light. Instantly, a powerful force that could destroy all laws and order burst forth. At this moment, everything around the Heaven Lord collapsed, including the Heaven Lord's own golden and silver divine seal. But at the same time, the Samsara god's secret art, Samsara rebirth, was interrupted. No! The Samsara god's face turned ghastly pale, and her Samsara god eye became extremely weak. She had gambled everything on reincarnation. Now that this secret art had been interrupted, she had not only consumed a great deal of energy, but she had also suffered a backlash. Now you can die. The Heaven Lord's eyes flashed with a savage light. Boom! Circulating his ancient race bloodline, a peerlessly powerful golden and silver divine fist howled forward. With the heavenly Tao God Eye's buff, this fist of energy crackled with lightning and wind, its power rising to a level that no one could match. Boom! Bang! The fist of energy shattered the world, and the Samsara god's body was obliterated, including her Samsara God Eye. Now, one of the 8 great God Eyes had fallen. The Heaven Lord stood where he was, sensing the supreme God energy descending from the fan universe and pouring into his heavenly Tao God Eye. Chapter 1552. In the core of the Dream Divine Kingdom, in the sky, an enormous vortex of gloomy yuan qi was slowly spinning. Under the influence of Zhao Feng's thoughts, the heaven-earth yuan qi within the Dream Divine Kingdom automatically gathered. Down below, Zhao Feng's surroundings rippled with powerful primal chaos energy and a profound space law, causing space-time to twist. Next to Zhao Feng, the heaven void silver leaf on the space spirit tree had already withered, and the void profound spirit jade next to it had dimmed to become an ordinary piece of crystal jade. Within Zhao Feng's body, the 3rd level of the God altar had already been formed. The primal chaos energy within it was rapidly circulating, driving the primal chaos energy in the 2 God altars below. This primal chaos energy was mixed with an abnormally violent and uncontrollable primal chaos energy. This was the God King level primal chaos energy. But this primal chaos energy was rather small, so it was constantly suppressed by Zhao Feng's vast primal chaos energy. Moreover, as the primal chaos energy accumulated over time, it was gradually tamed and assimilated. At the same time, Zhao Feng took out a large number of resources and madly absorbed them. An endless stream of energy flowed into the 3-tiered God altar. 10 days later, the primal chaos energy in Zhao Feng's body stopped circulating. The 3-tiered God altar in his body had already fused into one, becoming even more stable and sturdy. At this point, Zhao Feng had reached the 3rd heaven of God Lord realm. With each layer of the God altar, the amount of primal chaos energy would multiply. At this moment, Zhao Feng felt like he had an endless supply of energy that he could use without end. Other than the transformation of his god altar and divine power, his space law had also improved. Major success level space law. As Zhao Feng sensed this law and began to circulate it, he gained a deeper understanding of his divine kingdom. Zhao Feng realized that the improvement of his space law could also further strengthen his divine kingdom. But suddenly, thump thump, thump thump, Zhao Feng's dream god eye began to pulse, sending out a complicated message. After a long time of comprehension, Zhao Feng opened his eyes once more. God eye has fallen. Zhao Feng's heart skipped a beat in disbelief. He had originally planned to participate in the competition for the Heavenly Tao God Eye after successfully breaking into the third heaven. He hadn't expected for such a major event to occur right after he broke into the third heaven, the fall of a God Eye. Moreover, Zhao Feng could sense that the Heavenly Tao God Eye, which did not belong to the 8 great God Eyes, was even stronger than before. I can actually sense the Heavenly Tao God Eye? Zhao Feng was slightly surprised. The moment the God Eye fell, he suddenly sensed the Heavenly Tao God Eye, and the power of the Heavenly Tao God Eye seemed to have increased. Could it be? Zhao Feng's eyes widened as he thought of a certain possibility. Thinking of this, Zhao Feng could no longer sit still. Teleportation. Zhao Feng used his dream origin to create a dream that depicted a certain scene in the life-sacred land. His figure disappeared. At the same time, in the northern part of the ancient desolate realm of gods. Upon receiving the news, the 3 sovereigns of heavenly punishment, space-time and life, who were on their way to their destination, were stunned. Just now, a god eye fell? The life god was alarmed. How could this be? Who has this kind of power? The divine punishment god had a solemn expression. Ever since the 8 great god eyes were born, no god had ever fallen, much less one of the 8 great god eyes. But it's not impossible. In the battle between the 6 god eyes and the Heaven Lord, we suffered 2 explosions that heavily injured our origins. The space-time god's eyes darkened. If one's origin energy was heavily injured, even if they went into seclusion to recover, it would still take several thousand years. Thus, they were all heavily injured as they pursued the Heaven Lord. This also meant that the 6 of them were much weaker than normal gods. If 2 or 3 gods worked together and hunted them down, they truly might be able to kill one of the 6 god eyes. Forget it. Killing the Heaven Lord is more important. The divine punishment god immediately said. The other 2 agreed and continued on their way. With 3 gods together, even if they were heavily injured, they had nothing to fear. In the northern region of the ancient desolate realm of gods, the Heaven Lord and the Samsara God Eye were fighting. The world fell into chaos, leaving the Heaven Lord standing alone in the air. His eyes were half closed, but the Heavenly Tao God Eye at his forehead was wide open, receiving the supreme God energy from the fan universe. Suddenly, the eye at the center of the Heaven Lord's forehead trembled, and its power seemed to rise another level. This trembling spread through the world, shaking the ancient desolate realm of gods. The power of the Samsara God Eye, absolute control over Samsara. The Heaven Lord spread open his arms, a look of extreme enjoyment on his face. At this moment, the Samsara God Eye's power was completely transferred to his body. Moreover, the Samsara God Eye's power borrowed from the Heavenly Tao God Eye to unleash even greater power. Besides that, the Heavenly Tao God Eye itself had also gotten significantly stronger. I've already surpassed the God level, but that's still not enough. After a satisfied smile, the Heaven Lord's expression darkened. Although he possessed power that surpassed the God level, that did not mean he was invincible. His goal was to fuse with the Heavenly Tao Ancestral Eye and obtain this supreme and perfect power. What a bunch of idiots! The Heaven Lord mocked. Although he was confident in his ability to kill the life god, nothing was absolute. Anything could change. Just as he expected, a variable had appeared in the battle, and the situation had slipped out of his control. He could not kill any god eye, and there was even a chance that a god eye would kill him. But the Heaven Lord would not give up like this. If he wanted to win, he had to break the hatchet and fight with his back to the river. In this battle, he had lost a complete offensive ancestral artifact, the resources the heaven-defying faction had accumulated over countless years, and one of his clones. The Heaven Lord had been able to confuse the God Eyes and feign weakness because of this clone, or rather, substitute. When the ancestral artifact Xingtian exploded, the Heaven Lord had switched identities with his clone. The intimidating nature of the ancestral artifact explosion and the interference of the explosion had successfully affected the judgment of the God Eyes. A second explosion soon followed. This time, the substitute had taken the brunt of the Heaven Lord's attack. The God Eyes had only been able to faintly sense the weak energy of the clone. In truth, the Heaven Lord had only been hit by the shockwaves of the first explosion, and his injuries were lighter than any of the 6 God Eyes. Of course, the substitute had been able to interfere with the 6 God Eyes for 2 reasons. One was that this substitute had been created by the Heaven's legacy cat, which had duplicated the ancient race bloodline. The second was that the Heaven Lord had long ago prepared for this. The clone was identical in every aspect to himself, and it even contained his origin energy. If one didn't look carefully, it would be extremely difficult to tell the difference. Moreover, the intimidating nature of the explosion had affected the judgment of the 6 God Eyes. Only this had allowed the plan to succeed. On the other hand, the Heaven Lord had intentionally spread the news that he could steal the Heavenly Tao God Eye, successfully dividing the God Eye alliance. The false appearance of being at the end of the road, the 2 explosions, the confusing use of the substitute, spreading the news to divide the God Eyes, and feigning weakness to bait a single God Eye into attacking, these various schemes had allowed the Heaven Lord to successfully kill a God Eye and complete the first step in his grand undertaking of the Heavenly Tao Ancestral Eye. Now I can only fight them head-on. The Heaven Lord naturally knew that the war was not over. From the battle between the heaven-defying faction and the life-sacred land to the battle of gods, and then to the struggle for the Heavenly Tao God Eye, there had been no gaps. Now, the struggle for the Heavenly Tao God Eye was over, but an even greater battle was about to begin. The battle between the Heaven Lord and the Samsara God could be said to have shaken the heavens. As long as they were nearby, no one would not be attracted. Moreover, the Heaven Lord's tracks had been exposed long ago, so many experts had gathered in the area. Several dozen experts arrived from all around, all of them drawn over by the noise from the battle. How could this be? This energy, this power. A second Heaven God Lord sensed the dreadful energy coming from the distant primal chaos world, and his mind trembled. Didn't the reports say that the Heaven Lord's strength had fallen to the God King level? Since you've come, become my loyal soldiers. The Heaven Lord's voice resounded in everyone's minds. Run! This was the only thought left in everyone's minds. But in front of a god, they had nowhere to run. Boom! A dreadful ancient energy caused the world to tremble and rumble. This ancient bloodline energy that could shake the heavens and reign supreme over all races made all living beings in a radius of millions of li tremble and prostrate themselves on the ground. Before the 8 great God Eyes were born, the ancient race reigned supreme over all races. If the 2 had existed at the same time, even the first ancestor of the ancient race would have been able to suppress the God Eyes. Extinguish! The Heaven Lord activated the Heavenly Tao God Eye, and all sorts of law energies appeared in the world. Wind, fire, thunder, and lightning wreaked havoc and annihilated all. No one below the God King realm would be able to resist this peerless ruler's power. As the world fell silent, everything in the Heavenly Tao God Eye's vision vanished. Come out! The Heaven Lord activated the Heavenly Tao God Eye on his forehead. Before killing these people, the Heaven Lord had placed a samsara mark on all of them. Thus, these people's souls were now completely under his control. A gloomy hell fog drifted out of the Heaven Lord's forehead, and one figure after another began to emerge from it. There's still a major battle coming up. It's time to recruit. The Heaven Lord chuckled and began to move. At the very least, the news that he had killed the Samsara God Eye had not yet spread. There were still countless experts searching for him. Not far away, a dazzling golden light streaked through the air, turning everything in its path to ash. This person was the destruction god. The fall of a god. Just what's going on? The destruction god found it hard to calm down, but he still hurried to the location of the intelligence report. A little while later he sensed a familiar and powerful energy. This energy, it's the Heaven Lord. The destruction god was alarmed. How could the Heaven Lord's energy be this powerful? Back then, he truly had sensed that the fleeing Heaven Lord's energy was rather weak, and his injuries were even more severe than theirs. After all, the Heaven Lord had endured 2 explosions and even burned his origin energy. Otherwise, the 6 gods wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state. But at this moment, the Heaven Lord gave off the feeling that he wasn't very injured. He doesn't seem heavily injured. This is true. I'm no match for him in a one-on-one fight. As the destruction god thought to himself, he maintained a certain distance from the Heaven Lord and prepared to retreat. I didn't think that 2 more god deities would arrive so quickly. Let us continue our previous battle. The Heaven Lord's smile was accompanied by a powerful will to fight. 2. The destruction god's eyes flashed. On the other side of the Heaven Lord, a pitch-black figure slowly approached, the Death God. Destruction, I didn't think that you would arrive so quickly. The Death God gave a sinister smile. They had temporarily split up over the heavenly Tao God Eye. But now, both of them sensed that the Heaven Lord was not heavily injured. The 2 God Eye deities secretly began to work together. Chapter 1553. At this moment, the destruction god and death god once more encountered the Heaven Lord. But both of them sensed that the Heaven Lord's aura was powerful and that his injuries were not serious. At the very least, they were lighter than the injuries of the 2 God Eye deities. The 2 God Eye deities had never underestimated the Heaven Lord, so they decided to work together once more. Death Light. Destruction Divine Light. The 2 God Eye deities attacked with lightning-fast speed. The power of 2 God Eye deities descended upon the void. The destruction god's eyes shot out a dazzling golden beam of divine light that swept through the void, destroying everything it touched, including the void itself. On the other side, a pitch-black ray of death shot out from the eyes of the Death Chief Sovereign. Everywhere it passed, everything turned dark and lost its color, turning into decay. 1 black and 1 gold, 2 beams of destructive light shot toward the Heaven Lord. In the face of death and destruction, even other gods would not dare to be careless against these 2 God Eye deities who were extremely aggressive. But at this moment, the Heaven Lord appeared extremely calm and unmoving. What's going on? The destruction god's expression darkened as he began to think. Based on the intelligence reports, if the Heaven Lord was only a little stronger than an ordinary god king, he truly was doomed against 2 God Eye deities working together. Thus, the Heaven Lord might have already given up on trying to survive and was putting up no resistance. But for some reason, the destruction god suddenly felt uneasy. Boom! Bang! An enormous wave of destructive black and gold energy engulfed the Heaven Lord's body. This forbidden shockwave spread out in all directions, causing the void to tremble. After a long while, the dust began to settle. The 2 God Eyes saw through everything to the center of the explosion. Impossible! The Death God and Destruction God blurted out in shock. At the center of the explosion, the Heaven Lord's body was slowly returning to normal. This ability, wasn't it a samsara immortal body? Could it be? The samsara god had already killed the Heaven Lord and made him her samsara immortal body? But the 2 God Eye deities thought of another possibility. The samsara god had been killed by the Heaven Lord and the samsara god Eye's abilities had been stolen by the Heaven Lord. Impossible! Could the fallen god Eye be samsara? The destruction sovereign couldn't believe what he was seeing. The Heaven Lord had clearly lost his momentum and was at the end of his rope, so how could he kill a god Eye and rise once more? Buzz, a golden screen of light burst forth from the destruction sovereign's eyes, enveloping the distance. Within this light screen, everything was slowly crushed and annihilated, turning into nothingness. But this destructive barrier had very little effect on the Heaven Lord. The Heaven Lord had the strongest physical body, and the ancient god-devil body of the ancient race had an absolute defense against all kinds of energy. Although the destructive power of the destruction ruler could still be effective against the ancient god-fiend body, it was still not enough to destroy the ancient god-fiend body. But the Heaven Lord also had a samsara immortal body. The combination of the two made it seem like the Heaven Lord was completely unaffected. Samsara is the first. Which one of you will be the second? The Heaven Lord heartily laughed. The ability of the samsara god I combined with the ancient god-devil body allowed it to transcend logic and become an invincible power. Even the all-destroying chief sovereign of destruction was unable to completely destroy it. You killed the samsara sovereign? The chief sovereign of death's face was cold. Did you really think that I was so heavily injured that my cultivation level had fallen? The Heaven Lord couldn't help but laugh. There was some sort of trick behind those two explosions? The chief sovereign's eyes suddenly flickered as he thought of something. In the situation at the time, the Heaven Lord truly had no other choice but to detonate the ancestral artifact and then the divine kingdom. But now that he thought about it, the Heaven Lord had probably predicted that even the detonation of the ancestral artifact would find it difficult to kill 6 god eyes. If the ancestral artifact and the divine kingdom detonated together, they might have been able to kill 1 or 2 god eyes and inflict even greater injuries on the other god eye deities. But the Heaven Lord had separated the two explosions. In order to deceive you 6 god eyes, I wasted an ancestral artifact, the resources of the Heaven's legacy race accumulated over countless years, and a substitute expert fused with the ancient race bloodline. But it was all worth it. The Heaven Lord faintly chuckled. Perhaps one god I could not compare to an ancestral artifact, the heaven-defying faction divine kingdom, and the ancient race bloodline. But the god eye origin was far more valuable to the Heaven Lord than anything else. BZZ. The eye at the center of the Heaven Lord's forehead opened, its 8 pupils slowly turning. At the same time, 8 illusory eye bloodline images appeared behind the Heaven Lord. What was different from before was that the 8 eye bloodline figures started to move closer together, and the blurry outline of another eye appeared in the center. When death and destruction saw the image of that eye, their god eyes instantly felt a sense of familiarity and dread. The heavenly Tao god eye exuded the desolate ancestral energy that reigns supreme over all things. The world once more trembled as if prostrating before the Heaven Lord's feet. This is the energy of an ancestral eye? The 2 god eye deities immediately thought of the same thing. Die. The Heaven Lord's body blurred as he charged at the destruction god. With his current strength, he didn't need to fear the attacks of 2 god eye deities. As long as he killed one of them and stole their god eye origin, the other would be even easier to deal with. At that point, almost no one would be able to stop him. The Heaven Lord descended with a peerless pressure. The destruction god trembled, his destruction god eye throbbing. Great destruction art. The destruction god clenched his teeth and began to form a spell. Buzz. BZZ. The destruction god eye madly surged with destruction origin energy. Within the eyes of the chief sovereign of destruction, a source of destruction rapidly condensed. It was like a golden sun, abnormally dazzling. Go. The destruction god called out, and the origin of destruction shot forward. Reversal. The Heaven Lord used his heavenly Tao god eye to alter the laws of the world. The golden sun immediately changed directions and flew toward the destruction god. This move is useless against me. The destruction god's face turned grave. He was extremely familiar with this move of the Heaven Lord's, so he had long since prepared for it. His destruction god eye had been controlling the golden sun this entire time, and it immediately changed directions. It seems like god eye deities aren't fools. The Heaven Lord chuckled. The 2 god eye deities instantly frowned. The death god immediately took action, unleashing a vast amount of black death mist that shot toward the Heaven Lord. They needed to work together to deal with this Heaven Lord. Ancient Divine Fist. The Heaven Lord activated his ancient race bloodline and unleashed a massive gold and silver fist. At the same time, the heavenly Tao God Eye activated, strengthening the gold and silver fist with the power of various laws. Boom! Bang! The primordial divine fist collided with the destruction god's art of great destruction, and the destructive storm instantly exploded. A deafening explosion took place between the heavens and earth, shaking the surroundings. The destruction god's body charged out of the destructive storm, his figure rather ragged. Destruction god, you truly don't live up to your name. The Heaven Lord heartily laughed. The destruction god clenched his teeth, his heart seething with rage. Even though he was the destruction god, he had not managed to gain the slightest advantage in his direct clash with the Heaven Lord. In fact, he seemed to be at a slight disadvantage. On the other side, the death god was intimidated. In terms of destructive power, the destruction god was number one among the 8 great god eyes. No one dared to directly clash with him, but the Heaven Lord had done it. Destruction, let's work together. The death god transformed into a black streak of light and appeared at the destruction god's side. When death and destruction worked together, they were definitely the strongest offensive combination in the ancient desolate realm of gods. Not even the divine punishment, space-time, and life god-eye deities dared to be careless. Death and decay. The death god focused his eyes on the Heaven Lord's body, and the energy of a death god descended. The Heaven Lord's ancient god-devil body dimmed a little. The death law, which could cause anything to move toward destruction, seemed to have some effect on the Heaven Lord's ancient god-devil body. The Heaven Lord's strength was also affected by the death law and gradually weakened. Death was not just a method to kill, it could also be used to weaken and restrain. Okay, restrain him. The destruction god coldly snorted. The destruction god activated his destruction god eye and unleashed 2 more beams of destruction energy. The restrained and weakened Heaven Lord was no longer as powerful in a direct confrontation. Although the Heavenly Lord's grievous injuries were feigned, in reality he was still injured and not at his peak state. Don't get carried away. The Heaven Lord angrily roared. Primal energy erupted from the Heavenly Tao God Eye, destroying all laws and order in a radius of tens of thousands of li. Boom. Bang. The death god's weakening was lifted, and the destruction god was caught off guard, a trickle of blood trickling down the corner of his lips. Retreat. The 2 god-eye deities made up their minds. The Heaven Lord's strength was far too tyrannical. Even when working together, the 2 of them were no match. This was not the time to let their emotions affect their decisions. As gods, they had to yield and retreat. Die. The Heaven Lord immediately pursued. He could not miss out on such a good chance. If he allowed them to escape and recover to their peak state, the 2 god-eye deities would definitely be on guard, making it much more difficult to kill them. Many experts had gathered in the northern region of the ancient desolate realm of gods. The news of this battle spread like wildfire in an instant. The Heaven Lord's injuries had been faked. The Samsara god eye of the 8 great god eyes had died, and the destruction god eye and death god eye had worked together to defeat and pursue the Heaven Lord. At this moment, the divine punishment, life, and space-time gods of the northern region were doing their utmost to search for the Heaven Lord. We can't let the Heaven Lord succeed. Space-time, you're the fastest. Hurry and get over there. The life and divine punishment gods felt their hearts sink. Once the Heaven Lord killed the 2 god-eye deities, no one would be able to stop him. For a moment, the entire ancient desolate realm of gods was thrown into turmoil. All the top-class experts began to gather in the north. Chapter 1554. In the northern region of the ancient desolate realm of gods. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 beams of light, 1 black and 1 gold, flew through the air, reducing everything around them to dust. Run! The death god was unprecedentedly nervous. At any other time, no one would have believed that a mighty god-eye deity would show such an expression. Boom! Behind them, a gold and silver beam of light cut through the world, exuding a peerless pressure that forced all things in its path to submit. Useless struggle. The Heaven Lord coldly snorted as he punched. A terrifying force condensed and was released, crushing forward. The death god and destruction god immediately used their god eyes, using death and destruction energy to block the Heaven Lord's attack. Boom! Bang! A destructive explosion swept through the area. The two god-eye deities fled once more. Too powerful. The destruction god was ghastly pale. He had suffered one of the Heaven Lord's attacks in his battle with the Heaven Lord, aggravating his injuries. In the pursuit, the Heaven Lord was unstoppable. The two of them fought with all their might, but they were only able to protect themselves, and their injuries only worsened. The destruction god was gradually losing ground. After all, he was only invincible in terms of destructive power. Speed and defense were his weaknesses. The two of them hoped that other experts would come to their aid as they fled. However, experts below the god level were powerless against the Heaven Lord. Any expert that came within the Heaven Lord's line of sight was easily obliterated. There was one time when two god kings came to their aid, but in the face of the Heaven Lord's overwhelming power, one died and one fled. The god king that escaped was only because the Heaven Lord's target was the two god-eye deities. Space-time, divine punishment, life. The Heaven Lord's heavenly Tao God-eye suddenly sensed these three god-eyes. Against two god-eyes, he had the absolute advantage and was unstoppable. But the five god-eyes made things rather difficult. After all, the Heaven Lord was not at his peak, so he could not be careless. Reversal. The Heaven Lord immediately used his heavenly Tao God-eye to invert the world. In a flash, the Death God and Destruction God changed directions. With this, the group changed directions, putting even more distance between them and the three god-eyes. As the world was inverted, the Heaven Lord punched. Boom, boom. Two beams of golden and silver light pierced through the sky at lightning speed. However, the two gods were no pushovers. The moment the Heaven Lord overturned the world, they immediately reacted and fled in the opposite direction. After all, they had seen this move many times, and this matter concerned their lives, so how could they be careless? But they still found it difficult to dodge the Heaven Lord's attack. Boom! The two of them circulated their god eyes, unleashing the power of destruction and death to resist. But the Heaven Lord's attacks were relentless. Wind, lightning, and fire wreaked havoc in this dimension. Go! The two god-eye deities paid the price of being injured to escape the Heaven Lord's attack and flee once more. Gravity! The Heaven Lord activated his heavenly Tao God-eye, exerting supreme gravity on the world. Everything in the space sank. Break! The Destruction God activated his Destruction God-eye, unleashing a layer of destruction divine light that shattered the gravitational metal around him. Show! Show! The two god-eye deities continued to flee, the Heaven Lord in hot pursuit. The Heaven Lord's attacks continued without pause. If the two god-eye deities focused on defense, they would lose speed. If they wanted to escape, they could only ignore defense. Thus, they were bound to be injured by the Heaven Lord's attacks. In addition, this was also a drain on their god-eye energy. If this continues, the two of us, the Death God's heart sank. As the Death God, he had never been pursued before and was never in such a desperate situation. He also knew that the Heaven Lord's heavenly Tao God-eye possessed incredible perception and vision. Every time he overturned the world, he would take them far away from the reinforcements of other experts. But they could only follow the path the Heaven Lord had given them. There's still hope. The Destruction Sovereign let out a gasp. His golden gaze was somewhat dim. The Heaven Lord's reappearance had alarmed the entire ancient desolate realm of gods. More and more experts were gathering. When the time came, experts would come from all directions. Even if the Heaven Lord overturned the world, it would be useless. You have no hope. The Heaven Lord grunted. He was well aware of his situation, so he needed to kill the Destruction God as quickly as possible. Bang! The world was torn apart as two bolts of lightning and fire shot toward the two god-eye deities. Deathlight, destruction divine light. The two gods were forced to use their god-eyes to defend against the Heaven Lord's attack. Boom! Bang! Crash! In this clash, the injuries of the two god-eye deities worsened. But at this moment, the two gods realized that the world had become much brighter and warmer. In the distance, a golden sun seemed to slowly rise. Bright Sun God. The two god-eye deities seemed to see their savior and were extremely excited. I said before that you have no hope. The Heaven Lord coldly snorted, his icy voice coming from behind them. 2 black dots suddenly appeared in front of them. 2 enormous black gold warships were rapidly approaching. Your Excellency, I've kept you waiting. The left protector and right protector on the 2 warships called out in unison. No, how could this be? The Death God and Destruction God blurted out in alarm. As it turned out, the Heaven Lord had already planned everything. The remnants of the heaven-defying faction were already on their way. Activate the destruction weapons. The 2 protectors ordered. The great destruction weapons on the 2 black gold warships were ready to be activated at any moment. Kaboom! 2 incomparably vast white crystalline beams of light shot out from the black gold warship. At the same time, the Heaven Lord used his heavenly Tao God Eye to control lightning and fire to fill up the area that the great destruction weapons could not reach. Every inch of the world was brimming with destruction energy. The 2 God Eye deities had nowhere to hide. Gravity! The Heaven Lord's eye flashed with a savage light. In the space filled with destructive storms, a gravity as heavy as a mountain suddenly descended. Plush! The destruction god's body trembled, and then he bent over and vomited blood. Destruction! The death god's mind trembled. He knew that the Heaven Lord planned to kill destruction first and then him. Although he didn't have a very good relationship with the destruction god, the 3 of them were still on the same side and had been friends for countless years. The death god was also in a terrible mood as he watched destruction about to be killed and his god eye origin taken away. But he could not save the destruction god, so he could only use this chance to escape. The death god's body exuded a powerful death god energy that caused everything in the world to weaken and perish. Then he took the opportunity to escape to the other side. I'll be taking the second god eye. The Heaven Lord ignored the death god and condensed his bloodline. With the buff of the heavenly Tao God Eye, he unleashed a powerful attack. At the same time, the heaven-defying faction once more locked onto the destruction god. Boom! Bang! At this moment, the destruction god's body exploded with a dreadful energy that could annihilate all. Self-detonate! The heaven-defying faction members on the black gold warships were all terrified. The self-detonation of a god, and one with the strongest destructive power, the destruction god, meant that they were doomed. Samsara bind. The Heaven Lord immediately activated his heavenly Tao God Eye. The unique energy of the Samsara bind and destruction energy mutually countered each other. When facing the Samsara god Samsara bind, the Heaven Lord could only use the heavenly Tao God Eye's killing move to undo it. Hisses. The eye on the Heaven Lord's forehead exuded a gloomy mist that seemed to come from the Samsara hell. The gloomy mist surrounded the explosion and engulfed it. Broom. 2 terrifying energies clashed and battled. In the end, the gloomy mist was washed away by golden light, and the entire world was bathed in a golden light that could destroy all. The second is dead. Now it's the third. In the world of golden light, the Heaven Lord grunted and immediately moved out. The destruction god's self-detonation had been weakened by the Samsara bind and no longer possessed that terrifying power. It posed no threat to the ancient god-devil body and Samsara immortal body at all. In a flash of light, the Heaven Lord pursued. I can't resist. The death god's mind trembled. He knew that the destruction god knew that he couldn't escape and was using his self-detonation to buy him a chance to escape. But the Heaven Lord was far too powerful, even surpassing the god level. Suddenly, stop! An ethereal voice seemed to come from an endless distance. Space fiercely rippled as a white-haired elder descended in a flash of silver light. The death god's eyes flashed. One dead. The space-time god had an extremely grim expression. He was still one step too late. At the same time, a scorching golden red light shone down. A shrill and excited cry resounded through the world. A moment later, a man appeared, golden red wings wrapped around his body and exuding boundless heat and light. Heh, Death God Eye, I'll take your life next time. The Heaven Lord calmly glanced at the space-time god and bright sun god. It wasn't that he was afraid of these two, but that he was not at his peak. Killing the Samsara god and pursuing the destruction god and death god had consumed a great deal of his energy. He had also used the heavenly Tao god eye's abilities far too often. "Wanna leave?" The space-time god's eyes focused, cold light flashing through them. Suddenly, kaboom! Heaven and earth shook, and the power of the Annihilation Sovereigns surged through the fan universe. Golden specks of light began to gather toward the eye at the center of the Heaven Lord's forehead. The Destruction God Eye's power. The Heaven Lord spread open his arms and opened his heavenly Tao God Eye to receive this destruction origin energy. Behind him, the 8 great God Eyes grew even more focused and even closer. The outline of the mysterious eye in the center also became somewhat clearer. A desolate ancestor energy that reigned supreme over all began to spread out, causing all things to submit and the laws of the world to tremble. At this moment, everyone inexplicably trembled and felt themselves to be incredibly insignificant. Far in the distance, a youth dressed in a crystalline robe appeared. This was none other than Zhao Feng. Upon returning to the life-sacred land, he learned of the Heaven Lord's movements, but by the time he reached the north, it would already be too late. Thus, he borrowed the memories of other experts and used thought teleportation to arrive. The energy of the ancestral eye. Zhao Feng's mind trembled. After killing a second God Eye deity, the Heaven Lord's heavenly Tao God Eye had taken another step toward evolving into the heavenly Tao ancestral eye. Thump thump, thump thump. Within the origin dimension, the dreamy silver ball throbbed, pouring out large amounts of dream origin energy. Hiss. Feeling a piercing pain, Zhao Feng couldn't help but cover his left eye. He sensed that the dreamy silver ball contained an even more powerful energy that wanted to break through its shackles. Chapter 1555. In the void, the Heaven Lord spread open his arms and accepted the destruction god power descending from the fan universe. The aura emanating from the eye on his forehead grew more and more intense, shaking the wildlands and causing all living things to acknowledge allegiance. The natural order in the area trembled, as if the Lord of Heaven were above all things. Everyone present, including death, space-time, and the bright sun hegemon, felt their hearts tremble for some reason. Everyone suddenly felt that they had become incomparably small. The space-time hegemon, who had just been preparing to attack, couldn't help but pause. The heavenly Tao God Eye was the bane of any of the 8 great God Eyes, and the Heaven Lord had become even stronger, so strong that the space-time god did not even have the courage to attack. After absorbing the destruction god's power, the world-shaking energy began to reseed into the Heaven Lord's body. 8 great God Eyes, you only have a few more days to live. The Heaven Lord chuckled and shot off into the distance. In the distance, the members of the heaven-defying faction had the protection of their warships, so their losses were not severe. Go! The Heaven Lord led the members of the heaven-defying faction away. Before long, 2 powerful auras descended. They were the Life Sovereign and the Heavenly Punishment Sovereign. Looking at the situation, they had already roughly guessed the situation. The Heaven Lord is too dangerous. The space-time god Eye slightly lowered his head, forced to admit this. We must eradicate it as soon as possible. The divine punishment hegemon's face was solemn and dignified. I'm afraid the few of us are not his match. The Life Sovereign immediately said. When the death and destruction gods worked together, the Heaven Lord was still able to kill one of them. If the space-time god and the bright sun god hadn't arrived in time, the death god probably wouldn't have survived either. And now that the Heaven Lord had obtained a second God Eye origin, he was even stronger. Not even the 4 God Eye deities working together would be able to do anything to him. If they fell for another of the Heaven Lord's schemes and lost a God Eye, they would truly be finished. As such, he needed to recover from his injuries as soon as possible, gather the strength of the ancient desolate realm of gods, and discuss countermeasures. At this moment, Wang Hu. On the other side, Zhao Feng's left eye released a large amount of dream origin energy, causing the entire world to tremble in dreamy colors. This is... The bright sun sovereign stared at the distant Zhao Feng with a stunned look on his face. The 9th God Eye. The life sovereign looked over as well. His god eye is getting stronger and stronger. The divine punishment god stared at Zhao Feng's left eye in shock. From Zhao Feng's body, he felt an incomparably powerful force, which was good news for the current situation. The power of the god eye was indispensable to fighting against the Heaven Lord. It might be the stimulation of the heavenly Tao god eye. The chief sovereign of death murmured. The 8 great god eyes all responded to the Heaven Lord's heavenly Tao god eye. Zhao Feng had not been able to use the full power of the 9th god eye before, but now that he was stimulated by the heavenly Tao god eye, he should be even stronger. At this moment, the death god was no longer interested in Zhao Feng's 9th god eye. Right now, dealing with the Heaven Lord was the most important task. There was no longer any hostility between god eyes. He actually hoped that Zhao Feng could reach the same level as them so that he could be of some use against the Heaven Lord. Retreat. The space-time hegemon let out a sigh. Everyone, why don't you come to my life-sacred land? The life god eye extended an invitation. Although the Heaven Lord had retreated, no one knew if this was part of his plan or not. Thus, it was best for the 4 great god eyes to stay together lest the Heaven Lord take advantage of this opening. Moreover, the life god could heal the injuries of the other god eyes and help them recover to their peak condition as quickly as possible. Life, you don't mind me, right? The death god gave a mocking smile. We must eliminate the Heaven Lord as quickly as possible. Let's discuss our plan in the life god's sacred land. The bright sun god proposed. Okay. The life god agreed. Just like that, the gods returned to the life sacred land, and Zhao Feng followed them on their return journey. The news of the deaths of the Samsara god eye and destruction god eye quickly spread throughout the ancient desolate realm of gods, shocking everyone. In their minds, gods had always been the supreme experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods, undying and indestructible. No one had ever imagined that 2 of the 8 great god eyes deities would die one after another. Once the gods returned to the life-sacred land, they issued a summons to all the experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods to discuss countermeasures. The life-sacred land began to rebuild after the war. As for the god eye deities, they entered seclusion. The explosions of the ancestral artifact and the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom had damaged their foundations and could not be healed so quickly. They needed the life god's power. 4 figures sat cross-legged in a secret chamber brimming with pure vitality. They were none other than the 4 god eye deities. I didn't think that one of the 8 great god eyes would die. The death god sighed. Although he was the death god, he had almost died to the Heaven Lord. Don't think too much about it. If we can recover before the Heaven Lord does, we'll be able to catch him off guard. The life god softly said. During the healing process, the life god realized that the 4 god eyes had a certain connection that allowed them to heal far more effectively than she had imagined. In this way, they might be able to recover before the Heaven Lord did. The divine punishment god softly replied. In a certain palace in the life-sacred land, Brother Feng, if the Heaven Lord really fuses with the heavenly Tao ancestral eye, do you think the world will vanish like a dream, just as the legends say? Zhao Yufei lay on Zhao Feng's chest, a serene expression on her face. It won't. Zhao Feng hesitated for a few moments before saying. But in truth, this was not what he was thinking. Based on what Zhao Feng knew, the heaven-defying faction's goal was to leave this world. The Heaven Lord was fusing with the heavenly Tao ancestral eye to achieve this goal. Thus, this legend was very likely to be true. In the end, the Heaven Lord is just one person. The god eye deities will eliminate him and put a stop to all this. Zhao Feng gently stroked Zhao Yufei's soft hair. Brother Feng. Zhao Yufei looked worriedly at Zhao Feng. She had once been happy that Zhao Feng had the 9th god eye, as Zhao Feng was certain to become an expert. But now, as the 9th god eye, Zhao Feng was also the Heaven Lord's target and needed to participate in the battle against the Heaven Lord. Zhao Feng clenched his fists. The Heaven Lord had to be eliminated, or else who knew what would happen to the ancient desolate realm of gods. Time slowly passed. The heaven-defying faction and the Heaven Lord seemed to evaporate into thin air, with no news coming from them. The ancient desolate realm of gods gradually regained its peace. Summoned by the life-sacred land's 4 god-eye deities and the bright sun god, many experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods began to gather. One of the 8 great god-eyes, the myriad forms god-eye that had always remained neutral, arrived at the life-sacred land 1 year later. 5 years quickly passed. The 4 god-eye deities used this time to recover from their injuries, leaving everything to the myriad forms god-eye and the bright sun god. During this time, Zhao Feng also did not rest, rushing around. Zhao Feng did not know if the Heaven Lord was still watching him. Not even god-eye deities could contend against the Heaven Lord. If his 9th god-eye was also in the Heaven Lord's hunting range, then Zhao Feng was in far too much danger. Even though he had the dream god-eye, it was still insignificant to the Heaven Lord, someone who could be easily crushed. Thus, Zhao Feng continued to rush around, gathering space ancestral artifact fragments. Once he obtained all the space ancestral artifact fragments, Heaven Ascendant would automatically absorb them and form a complete ancestral artifact. If he had a complete defensive ancestral artifact, he would have a powerful life-saving trump card. In the war with the heaven-defying faction, Zhao Feng had obtained many spoils of war, including many ancestral artifact fragments. He had used these ancestral artifact fragments and other benefits to exchange for space ancestral artifact fragments from other experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods. In these 5 years, Zhao Feng had obtained 2 fragments and discovered one himself. I'm back here again. One day, Zhao Feng returned to the Gulong Zone. Based on the reports he had obtained, the Gulong Zone's heaven-devouring sacred land's god King Swallow Devourer had a space ancestral artifact fragment. The heaven-devouring sacred land floated in the air above a holy land in the Gulong Zone. The moment Zhao Feng arrived, he alarmed the experts of the heaven-devouring sacred land. Who has come? An elderly and dignified voice came from within the heaven-devouring sacred land's domain. Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng calmly said. A few moments later, an opening appeared in the domain, and a white-haired elder slowly stepped out. Strange and ancient black runes had been carved into his cheeks. I didn't think that it would be the 9th god-eye, Zhao Feng, paying a visit. Please forgive me for not coming out to greet you. The elder immediately welcomed Zhao Feng in. Zhao Feng's deeds had long ago spread. It should have been a major event that would have shaken the ancient desolate realm, but it had been overshadowed by the Heaven Lord. Even so, no one in the ancient desolate realm of gods dared to underestimate Zhao Feng. At the very least, all those who had once coveted the 9th god-eye had given up on the idea. Under the elder's guidance, Zhao Feng arrived at the main hall of the heaven-devouring sacred land. Before he even entered the hall, he heard a resounding voice. For what matter has the 9th god-eye personally come to pay a visit? Upon entering the hall, Zhao Feng saw a tall and brawny man seated at the head of the hall. The life-sacred land's 4 god-eye deities have issued a summons to discuss a plan to resist the Heaven Lord. Why hasn't God King Swallow Devourer moved out yet? Zhao Feng was rather surprised. This matter was caused by the 8 great god-eyes. I am confident that the god-eye deities can deal with it. God King Swallow Devourer laughed. In his view, the Heaven Lord's goal was only the god-eyes and had little to do with them. Besides the 2 fallen god-eye deities, weren't there still 6 god-eyes? That should be enough to deal with the Heaven Lord. God King Swallow Devourer was not the only one with this idea. Zhao Feng had encountered several other god kings in his search for the ancestral artifact fragment. But you didn't come this time to persuade me to join the resistance against the Heaven Lord, did you? God King Swallow Devourer asked. Seeing that God King Swallow Devourer was so direct, Zhao Feng dropped the pleasantries and got straight to the point. I heard that God King Swallow Devourer has a space ancestral artifact fragment. Is this true? Oh, you're interested in my space ancestral artifact fragment? God King Swallow Devourer narrowed his eyes. In truth, he had long ago heard that Zhao Feng was searching for a space ancestral artifact fragment, apparently so that he could fuse it into a complete ancestral artifact. This was precisely why God King Swallow Devourer had intentionally leaked this information. God King Swallow Devourer, What are your conditions? Zhao Feng faintly smiled. He was confident that God King Swallow Devour knew his goal. Zhao Feng, you're collecting space ancestral artifact fragments to fight against the Heaven Lord, right? If you're willing to exchange your space pseudo-ancestral artifact fragment with me, I, God King Swallow Devour, will join the resistance against the Heaven Lord. God King Swallow Devour urgently declared with a righteous expression. Zhao Feng's eyes glimmered. It turned out that God King Swallow Devour was also interested in the pseudo-ancestral artifact. Moreover, you can't use the full power of your God Eye. I'll be more useful in the war against the Heaven Lord in your place. God King Swallow Devour spoke once more, exuding a dreadful pressure. The heaven-devouring sacred land was ranked in the middle of the 18 sacred lands of the ancient desolate realm of gods, and God King Swallow Devour himself had the strength of a top-class God King. If God King Swallow Devour had the complete ancestral artifact, he would be able to use the power of a god. Even if it was just a space pseudo-ancestral artifact, God King Swallow Devour's strength would be greatly boosted, allowing him to approach the god level. Chapter 1556. God King Swallow Devour, you're underestimating the ninth God Eye. Zhao Feng calmly smiled at God King Swallow Devour's words. After breaking into the third heaven, even without using the Dream God Eye or the pseudo-ancestral artifact, Zhao Feng had the strength of an ordinary God King. If he used the power of these two, he could even fight against a top-class God King. Some time ago, he had witnessed the evolution of the Heaven Lord's Heavenly Tao God Eye, and the stimulation of the Dream God Eye had apparently caused it to grow stronger. Although Zhao Feng didn't feel anything obvious, he was sure that he had more dream origin energy than before. He could use it for a long time without any worries. Oh, do you believe that you'll be more useful in this battle than I am? God King Swallow Devour's lips curled into a profound smile. He had once fantasized about becoming the ninth God Eye, but as Zhao Feng matured, he gradually gave up on this idea, not wanting to offend Zhao Feng. However, this did not mean that God King Swallow Devour believed himself to be inferior to Zhao Feng. At the very least, Zhao Feng had only just broken into the third heaven and could not use the full power of the ninth God Eye. This one said nothing of the sort. Zhao Feng faintly smiled. No matter what, you seem to be extremely confident in your own strength. Why don't we have a simple match? If you win, I'll give you the space ancestral artifact fragment, but if I win, you have to agree to trade your pseudo-ancestral artifact to me. God King Swallow Devour gave a careless smile, and then his eyes glimmered as he slowly spoke. God King Swallow Devour's proposal was apparently more beneficial to Zhao Feng. After all, if Zhao Feng won, he would directly obtain the pseudo-ancestral artifact fragment, but if he lost, he would just have to trade his pseudo-ancestral artifact. Okay, I also want to experience God King Swallow Devour's abilities. Zhao Feng thought for a while before agreeing. Okay, let's go. God King Swallow Devour gave a smug smile. In his view, although Zhao Feng had the ninth God Eye, it was precisely because of this that Zhao Feng was too proud and conceited. The heaven-devouring sacred land was located on the edge of the ancient desolate realm of gods and was rather low-key, but God King Swallow Devour was definitely a top-class expert amongst God Kings. Once he obtained the pseudo-ancestral artifact in Zhao Feng's hands, gathered the fragments, and fused them into a supreme ancestral artifact, he would become a God King ruler. Even if Zhao Feng became a ruler, he wouldn't be afraid. It didn't take long before the two were transported to a separate dimension, and God King Swallow Devour had called over some of the upper echelon members to observe this battle. Zhao Feng, let's begin. God King Swallow Devour faintly smiled. In a split second, the blood in his body surged, and his body expanded continuously. 2 black horns grew out of his head. The black patterns on God King Swallow Devour's body rapidly twisted and surged into his sinister mouth. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The chaos force and tribulation lightning force in Zhao Feng's hands surged, instantly turning into a dark chaos lightning sword. God King Swallow Devour had activated his bloodline power from the very start, clearly determined to obtain the pseudo-ancestral artifact. Zhao Feng wasn't polite either. After all, top-class God Kings were truly not easy to deal with. God King Charflame and God King Golden Dragon, whom Zhao Feng had faced before, were ordinary God Kings, while God King Swallow Devour and the Illusion God race's God King Nethercloud were top-class God Kings. An enormous primal chaos tribulation lightning sword flew forward. Swallow! God King Swallow Devour opened his mouth, and a black vortex appeared in front of the primal chaos tribulation lightning sword, exuding a powerful devouring energy that sucked in the primal chaos tribulation lightning sword. Primal chaos energy and tribulation lightning energy? It's a little hard to swallow. God King Swallow Devour's expression flickered. If this was an ordinary Third Heaven Godlord's attack, he would have instantly devoured it. Although primal chaos energy had the devouring attribute, the Heaven Devouring race was famed for its devouring, so it was undoubtedly stronger. A few moments later, God King Swallow Devour had absorbed the sword energy. God King Swallow Devour's stomach also swelled up. Go! God King Swallow Devour bellowed, spitting out a ball of primal chaos tribulation lightning energy. This ball contained not only primal chaos tribulation lightning energy but also God King Swallow Devour's own divine power. The Heaven Devouring race could devour energy and make it their own. As expected of the Heaven Devouring race, Zhao Feng circulated his divine power and activated Heaven Ascendant. In a flash, an extremely solid spatial barrier engulfed Zhao Feng's body. As the gloomy sphere bombarded him, it was weakened by layer after layer. Bang! In the end, the sword energy was blocked by the pseudo-ancestral artifact. It really is the pseudo-ancestral artifact Heaven Ascendant, and it's extremely complete. God King Swallow Devour stared at the crystalline robe on Zhao Feng's body, making no attempt to conceal his greed. Swallow! God King Swallow Devour stared at Zhao Feng and opened his mouth. In a flash, a black vortex formed where Zhao Feng stood. Zhao Feng's figure flashed as he retreated. But the black vortex still managed to devour some of his divine power and the pseudo-ancestral artifact's energy. It seems like top-class God Kings really can't be underestimated. Zhao Feng chuckled. Boom! This primal chaos divine power and tribulation lightning energy circulated, and several dozen primal chaos tribulation lightning swords appeared in front of Zhao Feng. With a wave of his hand, all the primal chaos tribulation lightning swords flew out. Okay, this old man will accept them. God King Swallow Devour heartily laughed as he opened his savage black mouth and inhaled. A black vortex appeared with him at the center, exuding a powerful suction that devoured everything in the world. Swallow! God King Swallow Devour bellowed, and the black vortex's devouring power swelled, devouring the energy of the surrounding primal chaos tribulation lightning swords. What a powerful devouring ability! Zhao Feng was alarmed as he suddenly thought of something. At this moment, God King Swallow Devour opened his mouth and spat out a heaven-shaking energy. Boom boom boom! A vast and chaotic energy of primal chaos and tribulation lightning surged forward, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Fortunately, Zhao Feng had long ago anticipated this situation, and he had already formed a primal chaos lightning vortex around him. Boom! Bang! God King Swallow Devour's powerful attack slammed into the primal chaos lightning vortex. The two clashed for a few moments before the primal chaos lightning vortex shattered. But even deeper than that was the defense of the pseudo-ancestral artifact. The pseudo-ancestral artifact was not omnipotent, and it was still rather strained against the powerful attacks of a top-class God King. Fortunately, the primal chaos lightning vortex had weakened God King Swallow Devour's attack, or else it would have been very difficult. Zhao Feng, you've only just broken into the third heaven. It's already quite good that you were able to exchange a few blows with this old man. God King Swallow Devour heartily laughed as if he had already obtained the pseudo-ancestral artifact. The heaven-devouring race devours external energy and transforms it into their own. If I don't let them devour it, the heaven-devouring race's strength will be greatly reduced. Zhao Feng thought to himself. The devouring ability of the heaven-devouring race was also a powerful defense. The more one attacked, the stronger the opponent would be. But if he didn't attack, how could he defeat it? It's rumored that the heaven-devouring race can devour all things. Let my ninth god eye have a taste of you. Zhao Feng suddenly thought of something and regained his composure. The dream Dao. God King Swallow Devourer was not worried. He could even devour the death, destruction, and space-time energies of the 8 great god eyes. It was rumored that the 9th god eye was skilled in the dream Dao, but God King Swallow Devourer had once fought with a dream Dao expert and devoured their dream Dao energy. Dreamification. Zhao Feng circulated vast amounts of origin energy, and the dreamy mist in his left eye began to spin around him, dyeing the world in a dreamy and illusory light. Everything in front of Zhao Feng became dazzling and dreamy. What was different was that everything in Zhao Feng's vision had become transparent and illusory. This had not been the case before. This energy. God King Swallow Devourer's face froze. At this moment, he felt like he had been inexplicably weakened. This energy did not seem to be Dream Dao energy. Swallow. God King Swallow Devourer immediately activated his devouring law. Hisses. A black vortex appeared in the air. But the dreamy colors of the world did not diminish in the slightest, as if they were unaffected. I can't devour dream origin energy? Zhao Feng noticed this. It seemed like his dream origin was extremely unique. Extinguish. The power of thought revolved, and with a thought, the black vortex suddenly dissipated. The power of dreamification has gotten even stronger. Zhao Feng was startled. At this moment, everything in his vision had become transparent and illusory, as if it had always been fake and Zhao Feng could easily erase it. Zhao Feng once more circulated his thought power, this time targeting God King Swallow Devourer. In the past, the power of dreamification could at most erase experts of the same level, but it would have little effect on higher-level experts. But this time, Zhao Feng wanted to try. In a flash, an indescribable and mysterious energy descended on God King Swallow Devourer. A moment later, God King Swallow Devourer sensed that his divine body, divine power, and bloodline energy were slowly vanishing. No. How could this be? God King Swallow Devourer circulated all his energy to resist the mystical power of the 9th god eye. Although the rate at which his energy was disappearing was somewhat slower, God King Swallow Devourer was still incapable of stopping it. It seems like dreamification's power truly has gotten stronger, and the heaven-devouring race bloodline is a little low-level, so its resistance isn't very effective. Zhao Feng's analysis was much clearer. Then I'll attack and defeat you first. God King Swallow Devourer's face turned savage as he charged forward. Boom! God King Swallow Devourer thrust out a palm, sending a massive wave of black energy toward Zhao Feng, exuding a powerful devouring energy. Extinguish! Zhao Feng suddenly had a thought. A strange energy descended upon the palm. Although it did not dissipate, it greatly weakened the attack. Boom! Bang! The weakened palm strike was blocked by the pseudo-ancestral artifact. The heaven-devouring race was not very strong and relied mainly on devouring the energy of others. And now that God King Swallow Devourer's attack was weakened by dreamification, it became even more ordinary. Zhao Feng faintly smiled. It seemed like this battle was over. In terms of speed, he was no slower than God King Swallow Devourer, and for defense, he had the pseudo-ancestral artifact. Meanwhile, God King Swallow Devourer was being constantly weakened by dreamification. This weakening was not to injure him, but to make certain aspects of God King Swallow Devourer vanish, damaging his foundation. After trying out a few more attacks, God King Swallow Devourer gave up and called for a stop. Stop! I admit defeat! Dreamification was still affecting him, causing his strength to plummet. If this continued, he would only be left in an even worse position. Nearby, the upper echelon members of the heaven-devouring sacred land were stunned. God King Swallow Devourer had admitted defeat, but there was nothing that could be done about it. The heaven-devouring race only grew stronger when they met stronger opponents, and they devoured the energy of others. Alas, God King Swallow Devourer could not devour Dream Origin. Moreover, Zhao Feng's speed and defense were flawless, and his Dream God Eye had been stimulated by the Heavenly Dao God Eye to become even stronger. God King Swallow Devourer could only admit defeat, or else his foundation would be affected by Zhao Feng. After admitting defeat, God King Swallow Devourer could only hand over the space ancestral artifact fragment. Still missing one piece. Heaven Ascendant told Zhao Feng. He was also rather excited. Could Zhao Feng really be able to restore him and restore the power of an ancestral artifact? Let's go back to the sacred land and gather some intelligence. At this time, many experts had gathered in the life sacred land. Perhaps he could get news of the last space ancestral artifact fragment from them. While Zhao Feng was returning to the life sacred land, outside the life sacred land, nearly 10 black-robed Heaven's Legacy race members and Lu Qinxin had arrived. Chapter 1557. The arrival of the Heaven's Legacy race's Sage faction was a major shock to the life sacred land. Quite a few of the great powers knew that the Heaven's Legacy race was divided into the Sage faction and the Heaven-defying faction. The two factions were clearly separated and no longer had any ties. But they understood far too little about the Heaven's Legacy race, and they feared them far too much. In the end, they were still somewhat worried. "Why have you come from afar?" The Bright Sun Sovereign spoke. "The Heaven-defying faction has caused such chaos in the ancient desolate realm of gods, and as a member of the Heaven's Legacy race, this old man feels deeply ashamed. I have come to the life-sacred land to discuss a strategy to resist the Heaven Lord." Yu Tianwu took the initiative to slash out and calmly explained. Yu Tianwu remained completely unaffected when facing such a situation, and every single move he made was calm and wise, causing others to be unable to refuse him. Many experts of the life-sacred land were conversing with each other mentally. They naturally understood the capabilities of the Heaven's Legacy race. With the help of the Sage faction, dealing with the Heaven-defying faction would be much easier. But they still could not completely trust the Sage faction, especially in this special period. If they made the slightest mistake, the Heaven Lord might completely defeat them. Within the crowd, the myriad manifestations hegemon had a rather calm expression on his face. He stared intently at the members of the Sage faction, his gaze finally coming to rest on a white-robed woman. The woman was elegant and refined, like a green lotus in an ink painting. She was otherworldly, mysterious, and elegant. Many members of the life-sacred land couldn't help but stare at this woman. However, the reason why the myriad forms hegemon was paying attention to Lu Qinxin wasn't because of her appearance. Rather, it was because of that unique and familiar aura. This person, the myriad forms hegemon, closed his eyes, carefully sensing and thinking. But suddenly, an ethereal and elegant voice entered the myriad creation hegemon's mind. "Myriad creation, you don't even remember me?" Opening his eyes, the hegemon of myriad manifestations and Lu Qinxin stared at each other from afar. "You are Fate." The myriad forms hegemon was slightly startled. "The Destiny God I?" The Bright Sun Sovereign was shocked. Now, the most mysterious of the 8 great God Eyes, the Destiny God I, had appeared. "Everyone, please enter." The Bright Sun Sovereign opened the barrier around the Holy Land. The Heaven Lord's goal was the 8 great God Eyes, and the Destiny God Eye was also his goal. This made everyone unconditionally trust the Sage faction, and they were even more confident that the Destiny God Eye would not play around with its life. "The Destiny God Eye?" Zhao Feng gave a faint smile. As the Dream God Eye evolved, he had this feeling when he saw Lu Qinxin. But he still found it hard to believe that Lu Qinxin was the Destiny God Eye. "Feng, you're back too." Lu Qinxin looked at Zhao Feng with a hint of joy in her emotionless eyes. "I didn't expect you and the wise man to come as well." Yu Tianwu and Lu Qinxin had both come out of seclusion, as well as many other wise men. This showed how serious the matter was. "Fate, you should have predicted all of this beforehand. Why didn't you inform us?" Otherwise, hegemon myriad forms immediately asked. "The Destiny God I knew the fate of the world. Before the Heaven Lord obtained the Heavenly Tao God I, he would have definitely been able to see some clues." At the same time, the myriad forms God also sensed that Lu Qinxin's God Eye energy was not very strong. In truth, a long time ago, the ancient desolate realm of gods only had the 7 great god eyes. Lu Qinxin slowly explained. As the chief sovereign of fate, she knew the past, the future, and virtually everything. However, if she knew too much, she would discover even more problems. The chief sovereign of fate began to doubt this world and wanted to know its true face. Thus, she chose to seal her destiny origin and immerse herself in endless cycles of reincarnation so that she could comprehend the world and understand the truth. This was why she said that a long time ago, the ancient desolate realm of gods only had the 7 great god eyes. So that's how it is. The myriad forms God sighed. The Heaven Lord's plan had gone so smoothly because he had found this loophole. Zhao Feng nodded. He also understood that Lu Qinxin and Lu Qinin were both the chief sovereigns of fate. Do you have any plans? The myriad forms god asked. None at the moment. The Heaven Lord's heavenly Tao God Eye has already absorbed 2 God Eye origins and is above all our God Eyes. Not even the Destiny God Eye can see his future. A troubled expression appeared on Lu Qinxin's face. There has to be a way. The myriad forms God confidently said. Although the Destiny God Eye could not predict the Heaven Lord's future, with the Destiny God Eye's help, they had a chance of dealing with the Heaven Lord's schemes. The Sage faction could also effectively counter some of the heaven-defying faction's methods. Correct. Lu Qinxin nodded. The Tao of fate was abstruse and profound. There were no absolutes. Even certain death could be reversed. But now, they had to wait for the 4 God Eyes to recover from their injuries. The space-time, divine punishment, death, and life God Eye deities could be said to be the backbone of the resistance against the Heaven Lord. With the addition of the Sage faction, the Life's Sacred Land's defensive arrays had been upgraded, becoming even sturdier and able to easily switch between offense and defense. Time slowly passed, and all the members of the Life's Sacred Land began to prepare. One day, Zhao Feng went to find Lu Qinxin. Qinxin, there's something I need your help with. Zhao Feng smiled. Lu Qinxin's Destiny God Eye was in the process of awakening and becoming omniscient. You want to ask about the last space ancestral artifact fragment, right? Lu Qinxin had already guessed it before Zhao Feng even said it. Correct. Zhao Feng was somewhat delighted, as expected of the Destiny God Eye. But at the same time, he felt an inexplicable sense of loss. This was because he sensed that he might not be able to find the last ancestral artifact fragment. As the Destiny God Eye, if Lu Qinxin had known this long ago, she would have helped Zhao Feng resolve this need. It's in the hands of the heaven-defying faction. Lu Qinxin replied. The forging of a pseudo-ancestral artifact only required 70% of the fragment. For this reason, the heaven-defying faction had not fused all of its fragments into the ancestral artifact. The extra fragments had been given to the experts of its faction to increase their fighting power. For example, the first space fragment Zhao Feng had obtained had been borrowed from the heaven-defying faction. Thus, Zhao Feng had long ago guessed at this possibility. Zhao Feng's heart sank. It seemed like the pseudo-ancestral artifact Heaven Ascendant would find it very difficult to reappear in its complete form. Since this was the case, he would not force the issue. Feng, your God Eye is an indispensable force in the fight against the Heaven Lord. Lu Qinxin gave a profound smile to Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng nodded. Perhaps the Destiny God Eye had already deduced that the God Eye Alliance and the Heaven Lord were evenly matched. If his God Eye were to completely awaken, he would be able to influence the Heaven Lord. Before the final battle began, Zhao Feng entered seclusion. The battle would probably begin once the 4 God Eye deities or the Heaven Lord recovered from their injuries. With only a little time left, he would improve as much as he could. During his seclusion, Zhao Feng divided his mind into many parts, one of which was to study the Dream God Eye. When Zhao Feng saw the Heaven Lord absorb the destruction origin, he vaguely sensed that his Dream God Eye seemed to be hiding an even greater power. If only he could activate it. The second part was to cultivate the Primal Chaos Scripture. The offensive power of the Primal Chaos Divine Sword was no longer enough. He needed to cultivate even more offensive combat skills. Zhao Feng used the rest of his mind to comprehend the tribulation lightning sacred scripture that the divine punishment god had shown him. These two paramount scriptures still had many contents that Zhao Feng had yet to touch upon, and he also needed to become a god king. Anyone with a god eye would become a god once they became a god. Only a god king could use 100% of the god eye's power. Time slowly passed, and the ancient desolate realm of gods fell silent. However, this kind of silence was a little strange. Everyone expected that there would come a day when this silence would be broken. 5 years later, in a secret chamber in the life-sacred land, Lu Qinxin suddenly opened her eyes. The Heaven Lord has begun to move. Lu Qinxin's expression was grim. At this time, the 4 god-eye deities were still in seclusion. One day later, a piece of news shook the sacred land. Milords, the heaven-defying faction has begun to move. The Spirit Springs sacred land in the eastern part of the ancient desolate realm of gods has been captured. This news caused the silent life sacred land to seethe with excitement. The heaven-defying faction had appeared and had brazenly captured a sacred land. The many great powers of the ancient desolate realm of gods were gathered in the conference hall, and the mood was grim. Why haven't they attacked us? God King Charflame was rather confused. The Heaven Lord's targets were the 8 great god eyes. 2 of the god eyes had been killed, and the remaining 6 god eyes were all in the life-sacred land. But the Heaven Lord had chosen to attack other sacred lands instead of a sacred land. Wasn't this just harming himself? Your thinking is too simple. With the Heaven Lord's strength, what would he lose by attacking a sacred land that no one is living in? The myriad forms god had an extremely grim expression. Then, God King Charflame was speechless, and he fell into deep thought. With the Heaven Lord and the heaven-defying faction's strength, capturing a sacred land won't result in any losses. On the contrary, they'll be strengthening themselves. Yu Tianwu spoke up. That's right. With the power of the Samsara God Eye, the Heaven Lord can use even more Samsara energy. Those people that die at his hands will become his strength. The myriad forms god angrily said, if the Heaven Lord directly attacked the life-sacred land, the outcome might not be certain. At this time, the life-sacred land had gathered the majority of the ancient desolate realm of God's forces. Besides the god-eye deities, there were also the bright sun god and 2 other gods. Moreover, the life-sacred land was already prepared to fight. Even the heaven-defying faction led by the Heaven Lord would find it hard to win against this force. But the heaven-defying faction had seen through all of this. The Heaven Lord did not recklessly attack, but first recruited soldiers to expand his faction. Several more days passed, reporting, the Gulong Zone's heaven-devouring sacred land has fallen. Back then, Zhao Feng had even visited the heaven-devouring sacred land, but God King Swallow Devour appeared unconcerned. He believed that this was a matter between the Heaven Lord and the God Eyes, and that the God Eyes should be able to resolve it. Gradually, the entire ancient desolate realm of gods began to panic. Those factions and experts who had the same idea began to move toward the life-sacred land. Even the life-sacred land's sworn enemy, the fallen heaven-sacred land, thickened its skin and joined in. This was the only safe place in the ancient desolate realm of gods. Reporting, the Blood Spirit Sacred Land has fallen. The Blood Spirit Sacred Land was a sacred land on the northeast edge, rather far from the life-sacred land. On this day, a god energy that could shake the heavens soared into the sky above the life-sacred land. The 4 god-eye deities had finally come out of seclusion. Chapter 1558. The appearance of the 4 god-eye deities in seclusion instantly calmed the worried life-sacred land. The 4 god-eye deities immediately learned of the recent events through the other upper echelon members. The Heaven Lord recovered before us? The Life Sovereign was somewhat surprised. She believed that if the Heaven Master hadn't fully recovered, he wouldn't have made such a big fuss. Is the heaven-defying faction trying to turn the entire ancient desolate realm of gods upside down? The divine punishment hegemon's face turned slightly cold. In the Heaven Lord's hands, the samsara origin is even more powerful. The chief sovereign of death couldn't help but sigh. Even Samsara God King himself could not produce a large number of high-grade Samsara immortal bodies in a short period of time. The four God-eye deities all had different reactions after learning all this, but they all shared one thing in common: their fear of the Heaven Lord and their determination to eradicate him. What should we do now? An old man with a white beard stepped forward. His figure was ramrod straight and emitted an extremely sharp and terrifying sword intent. His entire person was like an ancient sword that had been sealed in dust. It seemed simple and unadorned, but it actually contained boundless power. This person was the famous celestial sword god of the ancient desolate realm of gods. Once the God-eye deities gave the order, the various experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods began to gather, including gods. As for the celestial sword hegemon, he was one of the hegemons of a holy land of the Tao of the sword. His powerful sword arts could shake gods and ghosts alike. If we just sit here and wait for death, the Heaven Lord will definitely expand his faction to a level even stronger than ours and then attack the life-sacred land. Yu Tianwu said slowly. He had a good understanding of Yu Tianshu. Although this person was a bit crazy at times, if there were other methods that could make it easier for him to win, Yu Tianshu would definitely use them. In other words, we can only take the initiative to attack. A black-haired, black-clothed young man spoke, exuding the aura of a king. Besides the God-eye deities, the life-sacred land also had three gods: the bright sun god of the golden crow race, the celestial sword god of the sword Tao sacred land, and the black-clothed youth, the youngest and most talented god of the ancient desolate realm of gods, Sikong Tao. Let's move. The divine wrath chief sovereign said softly. Although they had the advantage of the life-sacred land's terrain and had a greater chance of victory, they still had the advantage. But in the current situation, they had no choice but to attack and fight the Heaven Lord. Dong dong dong, the sound of battle echoed through the life-sacred land. Within the Dream Divine Kingdom, Zhao Feng was immersed in cultivating the Primal Chaos Scripture and Lightning Tribulation Scripture. Perhaps it was because of the immense pressure, but his seclusion during this period of time had yielded great results. First of all, the laws of time and lightning had reached the minor perfection stage. This would greatly increase Zhao Feng's overall strength. Secondly, he had comprehended a higher-level combat skill, the Chaotic Heaven Covering Hand. His control over the power of tribulation lightning had also reached a whole new level. To sum it up, even without using the pseudo-ancestral artifact or the dream god eye, Zhao Feng was no weaker than a top-class god king. Right at this moment, a formless sound wave pierced through space and reverberated within the divine kingdom. Are we leaving? Zhao Feng slowly opened his eyes and retracted his powerful aura back into his body. Not long after, Rumbolt's two silver warships tens of thousands of feet long flew out of the life-sacred land and into the clouds. These were the new warships that the Sage faction had used vast amounts of manpower and resources to build, and they were particularly outstanding in terms of defense. As the warships flew forward, the Heaven's legacy array around them began to churn with enormous ripples of energy. The two battleships sped forward at an increasing speed, eventually disappearing into the rift. The Heaven-defying faction was also skilled in divination. If they didn't want to clash with the God-Eye Alliance, they could just avoid them. However, the God-Eye Alliance now had the Sage faction and the Destiny God-Eye. Based on their calculations, the arrogant Heaven-defying faction could not avoid them. Approaching the Heaven-defying faction as quickly as possible was the best way to stop them from expanding their strength. Fortunately, the warships built by the Sage faction had the ability to use spatial shift, which was truly rare. However, each spatial shift consumed a whole batch of supreme-quality god crystals. Along the way, the gods and god kings gathered in a secret hall in the core of the warships. The Heaven Lord already had the ancient god devil body, and now he has the power of the Samsara god eye and the supreme destructive power of the destruction god eye. His strength is not just a little bit above that of a god. Yu Tianwu was the first to speak, causing the atmosphere in the secret hall to turn grim and solemn. How should we defeat the Heaven Lord? The Heaven Lord has the heavenly Tao God Eye and the ancient God Devil body. He's very difficult to deal with. The experts expressed their opinions and formulated countermeasures. Our only advantage against the Heaven Lord is our numbers. Thus, we cannot easily split up. The best way is to work together and continuously exhaust the Heaven Lord's strength. Yu Tianwu slowly said. Even the Heaven Lord's strength was not limitless and had its limits. We still need to rely on the God Eyes to deal with the Heaven Lord's core strength. The Destiny God Eye Lu Qinxin said. At this moment, she was not only elegant and mysterious, but also had a convincing demeanor. Outsiders might not know, but all God Eyes knew that the powers of God Eyes could be very easily fused together. For example, the attacks of the Death God Eye and the Destruction God Eye could complement each other and create even greater power. The Death God Eye and the other God Kings who cultivated the Destruction Law would find it very difficult to have this sort of tacit understanding, and their powers would find it very difficult to fuse. Perhaps it was because of the God Eyes. Other than the Destiny God Eye, which was not skilled in combat, and the Ninth God Eye, which could not use its full power, there were still 5 God Eyes that could fight. Just as everyone was discussing, a figure suddenly appeared. "They're here," Lu Qinxin suddenly said. "Bzz, kaboom." Countless booms came from around the 2 white warships. In the distance, the world was dark and gloomy, but it exuded a hair-raising sense of danger, as if it was leading to the underworld of death. Kaboom! Black streams roiled. 2 black gold warships slowly appeared in the dark, quiet, and mysterious void. The 2 sides faced off, the dreadful pressure between them causing the space between them to twist and crack. Swish! Several figures suddenly appeared above the white warships. A mystical energy that seemed to reach the heavens spread out, restoring a sliver of light to the gloomy world and allowing the God Eye Alliance to clearly see the enemy's situation. Countless pitch-black figures floated around the 2 black gold warships, all of them exuding gloomy samsara energy. All of them were samsara immortal bodies. God King Swallow Devour. Zhao Feng immediately spotted God King Swallow Devour in these countless figures. At this moment, God King Swallow Devour was bound to the shell of a samsara immortal body, unable to break free, and his face was savage and terrifying. What a terrifying person! Xen Wuheng's expression was grim. He currently knew that the Heaven Lord had slaughtered the 3 sacred lands and captured countless souls to make them into his samsara immortal bodies. Of course, the Heaven Lord had already conquered the illusion god's sacred land long before this. A white figure floated above those countless samsara immortal bodies, exuding a dreadful energy that made all things submit. Haha, this old man is deeply honored by the arrival of 6 God Eyes. The Heaven Lord suddenly laughed. At this moment, all the experts of the God Eye Alliance were observing this Heaven Lord, whose strength surpassed that of a god. All of them turned even more solemn, not daring to be careless. "Do it!" The Divine Punishment God snorted. At this stage, there was no point in continuing to waste words with the Heaven Lord. The other gods nodded. Boom! Bang! The heavens and earth shattered as an incomparably powerful force burst out, causing the surroundings to tremble. The 5 God Eye deities, the Bright Sun God, the Celestial Sword God, and Sikong Dao immediately charged at the Heaven Lord. What a terrifying energy! Zhao Feng's heart trembled. An ordinary God Lord would probably be scared out of their wits in the face of this energy. But the Heaven Lord gave a bizarre smile. "Ha! The God Eye origins of all 6 of you God Eye deities are mine." Bang! The Heaven Lord's ancient race bloodline madly surged, unleashing a pressure that could shake the heavens. At the same time, the heavenly Tao God Eye on his forehead slowly opened. At this moment, the God Eyes of the other God Eye deities trembled, including Zhao Feng's dream God Eye. The Heaven Lord's body flickered as he charged forward. Broom! 2 earth-shattering forces exploded from the clouds in the 9th heaven, and a terrible storm raged. The silver warships and black gold warships lowered their altitude to avoid the dreadful storms dominating the battlefield. At the same time, the experts of both sides charged out of the warships. Kill! A deafening roar could be heard as the 2 groups of people collided with one another. In a flash, chaotic energy and the stench of blood filled the air. Chih, I didn't think that this old man would become like this. Now that things have come to this, we can only enjoy this slaughter. The three abnormally powerful samsara immortal bodies of the heaven-defying faction began to converse. These three were the god kings of the Spirit Spring Sacred Land, the Blood Spirit Sacred Land, and the Heaven-devouring Sacred Land. In the rear, the left protector began to chant, and layers of black mist began to rise from his back. Within this mist, one could faintly make out a pitch-black cloaked figure with a pitch-black face and wrinkled, withered claws that savagely extended forward. The experts of the Life Sacred Land were overwhelmed by fear at this sight. The left protector's dreadful shaman arts and curses from the last Sacred Land War were still vivid in their minds. This time, this old man will end you. God King Radiant Peak charged forward from the Life Sacred Land side. Enter the battle. With a wave of his hand, Zhao Feng released the Black Destruction Dragon, his many clones, and the ancient beasts. This battle was of utmost importance, so Zhao Feng did not dare to be careless. At this moment, Zhao Feng sensed several powerful killing intents. As Zhao Feng scanned the battlefield with his god eye, he grimaced. The ones exuding killing intents were the divine emissaries that Zhao Feng had killed, and now, they had all been revived. Zhao Feng, your time of death has come. Divine Emissary Wu bellowed as he shot forward, black-violet energy surging around him as he transformed into a darkness god-devil. At the same time, Divine Emissary Chang, Divine Emissary Li, Baiming Hui, and the other divine emissaries charged at Zhao Feng. Chapter 1559. Zhao Feng hadn't expected that the divine emissaries who had died so many years ago would all be resurrected, and now there were 7 of them. The Samsara Eye had the 2 sides of life and death. The Samsara of life could resurrect the dead and also control the Samsara art. Of course, resurrecting the dead was not something that could be casually done. At the very least, those who had been dead for too long could not be resurrected. As for the Samsara of death, it imprisoned the soul of the dead in the Samsara God Eye and made it an immortal slave under one's control. Using the Samsara of life to resurrect the dead had an enormous price. But to the Heaven Lord, resurrecting a few third heavens was a trifling matter. Zhao Feng, if you follow the Heaven Lord, we will never die, but you will die. Baiming Hui stared at Zhao Feng, his eyes brimming with hatred as he jeered. Is that so? Every time you live, I'll kill you. Zhao Feng faintly chuckled, not caring at all. In the past, these people he had killed might have been powerful foes, but that was all in the past. Zhao Feng was improving with every passing moment, surpassing his past self. Arrogant. Divine Emissary Wu couldn't help but laugh, his black and tyrannical energy crushing down. Demonic Heaven Palm. With a wave of his hand, a massive demonic palm covered in black patterns howled forward, stirring up the winds and clouds. Break! Zhao Feng waved his hand, condensing a primal chaos tribulation lightning sword that shot forward. Boom! Bang! The giant devil palm shadow shattered with a loud bang. How so strong? Divine Emissary Wu was flabbergasted. He hadn't been dead for very long, but now that he was resurrected, Zhao Feng had grown to this level. A casual attack from him was able to destroy the combat skill of his demon god race bloodline. Primal Chaos Fist. Time Blade. Destruction Dragon Breath. At the same time, the bloodline skills of the other divine emissaries descended. Zhao Feng's expression was calm, but the primal chaos tribulation lightning energy in his body surged out, forming a dark storm of lightning that wreaked havoc. Boom! Bang! The powerful battle skills bombarded the dark lightning storm from all directions, but they were all devoured and disappeared without a trace. At this moment, outside the dark thunderstorm, Zhao Feng as expected of the holder of the 9th God Eye. We are no match for you, but offending the heaven-defying faction will not end well for you either. Baiming Hui said with a low voice. Set up the formation, 7 stars enigmatic formation. Divine Emissary Wu shouted. At some point, a silver-black banner had appeared in the hands of the 7 divine emissaries. As soon as the flag appeared, a mystical force of the heavenly fortune formation was unleashed, forming a tremendous force that formed a gray space, trapping Zhao Feng within it. "Are you prepared?" Zhao Feng murmured. Even though he hadn't come into contact with the heaven-defying faction while he was growing stronger, he was still able to understand the heaven-defying faction. But the heaven-defying faction was no fool. They knew of Zhao Feng's potential, and the 7 divine emissaries were not enough to deal with Zhao Feng. Thus, the heaven-defying faction had long ago prepared an array for the divine emissaries. Not even a top-class god king would be able to escape. Die. The 7 divine emissaries controlled the 7 stars' enigmatic formation and attacked Zhao Feng. In truth, they also found this hard to accept. 7 mighty divine emissaries working together actually needed to borrow the Heaven's Legacy Race's array to deal with Zhao Feng. Fortunately, the right protector had given them this array, or else they might have lost their lives to Zhao Feng once more. Kaboom! Several streaks of silver light appeared in the surrounding mist and gradually expanded as they shot toward Zhao Feng with lightning-like speed. These stars contained the power of the 7 divine emissaries and the array. They were enough to injure a top-class god king. Zhao Feng's body swayed as he dodged, but at the same time, another massive star flew at him from the left. As expected of the Heaven's Legacy array. Even if I dodge it once, there's still a second time. Even if I dodge it a 7th time, I'll probably be met with an even more powerful killing move. Zhao Feng would not underestimate the Heaven's Legacy Race's array. If he chose to continue dodging, he would only sink deeper and deeper into the killing array. Immediately breaking the array was the best choice. In addition, Zhao Feng's 9th god eye sensed danger. 7 trifling divine emissaries would find it difficult to affect Zhao Feng. However, he could not be careless against the Heaven's Legacy Race. Since this was the case, there was no need to be secretive. To Zhao Feng, breaking the array was extremely simple. Buzz. BZZ. Dream origins surged in his left eye, and his thought power began to circulate as he focused on one of the stars flying toward him. Change course. An intense thought took form. Instantly, the huge silver star moved a certain distance to the right. Bang. The silver star that had shifted its position collided with another star. A terrifying storm of divine power spread out within the array formation. These stars were all orbiting according to the array's trajectory. If there was an error in their trajectory, the entire array would be in trouble. At the same time, the entire 7-star profound array fell into chaos. What's going on? There's an error in the array's operation. Divine Emissary Wu bellowed. How could a low-level flaw appear in the Heaven's Legacy Race's array? The 7 divine emissaries did their utmost to repair the array. But at this moment, a voice resounded in their minds, "Self-detonate the array." The speaker was none other than the Heaven's Legacy Race's right protector. Although they didn't know what was going on, the 7 divine emissaries immediately carried out the order. Suddenly, an astonishingly frightening aura of divine power emerged from the spirit formation. Bang! A massive primal chaos tribulation lightning sword exuding a world-shaking aura slowly stabbed out of the array. The 7-star profound array was greatly weakened after falling into chaos, allowing Zhao Feng to charge up his energy and smoothly break the array. How could this be? Divine Emissary Wu was alarmed. He hadn't expected Zhao Feng to so easily break their 7-star profound array. The 7 rapidly retreated. Boom! Bang! Crash! The array fiercely pulsed with energy and exploded. But the 7-star profound array was already damaged, and the 7 divine emissaries had retreated. Without a source of energy, the 7-star profound array's explosive power was greatly reduced. Activating pseudo-ancestral artifact Heaven Ascendant, Zhao Feng charged out of the explosion unscathed. But at this moment, Zhao Feng sensed 2 abnormally powerful energies. A storm of ice howled through the air, suffused with an astonishing law of ice that plunged the world into ice. A black vortex appeared at the edge of the explosion, madly devouring the power of the explosion. 2 god kings. Zhao Feng's face chilled. These 2 god kings were both samsara immortal bodies. One of them was the blue-haired elder that Zhao Feng had fought in the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom, and the other was God King Swallow Devour. At this moment, Zhao Feng understood that the sense of danger from his left eye had come from the right protector. If Zhao Feng were to face the blue-haired elder and God King Swallow Devour directly, he would definitely be cautious and even retreat. Thus, the right protector had used the 7 divine emissaries as bait to trap Zhao Feng in the 7-star profound array so that the 2 God Kings could launch a sneak attack. But not even the right protector had expected Zhao Feng to break the array so quickly. If Zhao Feng had underestimated the 7 divine emissaries at the start, he would have been heavily injured by the 7 of them, the 7-star profound array, and the 2 God Kings. In the rear, within the Heaven's Legacy race's black gold warship, the right protector had a savage look on his face. This kid seems to have noticed, but against 2 God Kings, I'd like to see what you can do. Die! God King Swallow Devour's expression chilled. When Zhao Feng tried to persuade him to join the God Eye Alliance, God King Swallow Devour had refused. In the following battle, he admitted defeat in front of Zhao Feng. In the end, his sacred land was destroyed by the Heaven Lord, and he himself was killed by the Heaven Lord, becoming a samsara immortal body. God King Swallow Devour was filled with hatred. He hated how unfair fate was. He focused all his hatred on Zhao Feng. He wanted Zhao Feng to suffer the same fate as him. Kaboom! After absorbing the power of the explosion, God King Swallow Devour's attacks were strengthened. On the other side, the blue-haired elder used his ice law to seal off Zhao Feng's movements. Using his space-time law and pseudo-ancestral artifact Heaven Ascendant, Zhao Feng transformed into an indistinct streak of silver light that flew away. 2 God Kings were rather troublesome to deal with, especially since they were both samsara immortal bodies. But how could Zhao Feng run away just because of this? Primal Chaos Domain. Zhao Feng unleashed a vast primal chaos domain that seeped into the surrounding space, creating a dark primal chaos domain. In the primal chaos domain, he would be strengthened while his enemies would be suppressed and weakened. Pushing his speed to the limit, Zhao Feng flew toward the blue-haired elder. I'll kill you first. Zhao Feng's face chilled as primal chaos divine power rippled in his hand. Kill me? The blue-haired elder couldn't help but laugh. Firstly, as a God King he would not die so easily. Secondly, as a samsara immortal body, as long as he was not quickly destroyed, he could slowly recover. Thirdly, they were 2 God Kings working together, and God King Swallow Devour was a top-class God King with outstanding fighting power. Then let's try. Zhao Feng murmured with a cold expression. Thousand Ice Seal. The blue-haired elder called out. The surrounding space immediately turned cold, and the icy storm in the air began to freeze and gather. Torrents of primal chaos energy and the space ancestral artifact fragment clashed. Zhao Feng had used the perfected law of the space ancestral artifact fragment and his primal chaos energy to begin with, allowing his primal chaos domain to gain the upper hand. Primal chaos shrouds the heavens. The primal chaos energy that Zhao Feng had been gathering in his hand was unleashed. A dark and gloomy hand of a god demon appeared in the sky, devouring the energy of the world as it rumbled down. The primal chaos shrouds the heavens was a higher-level offensive skill that Zhao Feng had comprehended. Although it was not as nimble as the primal chaos lightning sword, its explosive power far surpassed the latter. Boom! Bang! As the palm came crashing down, a violent ball of thunder retribution power erupted from it. This boundless energy invaded the blue-haired elder's body and began to destroy his samsara immortal body. Primal Chaos Lightning Eye. At the same time, Zhao Feng's left eye unleashed a powerful eye bloodline technique. A dark tribulation lightning sword seal descended from the sky, imprinting itself on the blue-haired elder's head. This was not the end. If he wanted to kill a samsara immortal body, he needed to destroy it instantly. BZZ. Zhao Feng activated Heaven Ascendant and condensed a powerful spatial blade. This spatial blade pierced through the world and descended upon the blue-haired elder's body. God King Swallow Devour was stunned. In terms of speed, he was inferior to Zhao Feng. He had not expected for Zhao Feng to instantly unleash such a ferocious attack as soon as he got close to the blue-haired elder. Even when he was alive, he would have found it very difficult to block. "Don't even think about it." God King Swallow Devour roared as he circulated his devouring law. He could not allow Zhao Feng to kill the blue-haired elder. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.